let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So apparently nobody likes to the right of me, because everybody's sitting to the left.
Oh, that's a good point.
But welcome. Our first item here is the road agent. We do have him here. Item A, subsection A, removal of road markers causing dangerous issues for snowplow drivers.
Did you seal the minutes?
Do we have a motion for the non?
Move to seal the minutes to the non-public meeting until such time as majority of the board feels it was wise and prudent to unseal them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now you may begin.
All right, good evening, Mike Pavero, Road Agent, Newton. I want to bring to the board's attention New Year's Eve, which was a week ago today, I believe. We had a unfortunate situation where one of the plow trucks actually got into a road hazard, as in a stump, just off the edge of the roadway. And one of the drivers was injured and the truck was damaged. So this one, after doing some research, was never marked. We typically in the fall go around and mark anything that's of a situation where when it snows, we won't be able to see these things. They're buried with any type of amount of snow. I thought originally the marker was pulled. This one was not. That being said, we do know that residents in town have pulled them because they've come to town hall and placed them on the desk at town hall. So I'm here to let the board know that this is taking place. Not acceptable. The injury to the driver and the truck could have been a lot worse. And the residents needed to leave them alone. Don't touch them.
Now that's removing town property, correct?
Well, maybe, possibly. I mean, it's inside what is considered the town maintenance easements, so you could probably argue that as a point. I don't know how much argumentative we want to get with the residents. I'm just here to tell them, don't touch the markers, because it's already been proven. Some people can get hurt, so don't touch them.
I agree.
So the specific marker and the specific resident, have they been contacted yet?
Where this took place?
Yeah.
They both, yes, the resident knew that morning because the truck went sideways and ended up in the yard.
Yeah.
So they are aware of the situation.
Yeah.
And they were fine about it. They, they're sympathetic, everything else, but that resident in that location was not marked, so it was not of their fault at all, this situation. But I'm just bringing you to your attention. Some residents have removed markers where we've marked things that are hazards.
Can we post this on our website? A reminder, and someone can do it on a Facebook page, maybe
It
as
wouldn't hurt
well.
to
It wouldn't
post
hurt.
I think Mary Jo already put
She did?
something out on
And on Facebook too?
Well,
Okay,
I
good.
saw that too, but I was thinking something more official, like,
A letter?
like a letter to the town saying, this is why we do this, and this is, it won't be tolerated, like you said, and just get that through official channels, and it can be shared everywhere else too, but, and then we need to be made aware.
It's helpful if there are consequences for removal of them.
Well, I don't know if we
I don't know
want
what them
to spend too
consequences
much
would
time
be.
on that yet, but we
I'm
need to
just
be
saying, you
made
can tell them not to do it, but if there's no consequence, then there's nothing to stop them from doing it, because they
Other than
obviously,
they can take a ride in a plow truck when it happens again.
you know,
Then they won't do it.
I mean, we're expecting them to understand that the markers are there for a reason.
Oh, yeah,
If we-
exactly. And you would think common sense would tell you that the markers were there for some purpose.
exactly.
Well, if they're re-notified and know that someone got hurt, I think most people in the town would not meddle. We can get that information to them.
No, I'm on board with that. mean,
So
put it-
I
put it
have
on
no
the website.
problem with just putting out a reminder to the town. It can go on the town website as a notification, so those who are on there, it can be emailed. Even posting something in Carriage Town
Yeah,
News,
I was
you
thinking that.
know?
Good idea.
I would actually like to give the road agent an opportunity to give his opinion on, and you talked about removing markers, people putting in T-stakes and what have you as a
Barrier?
road edge marker.
Oh, yeah, a separate issue. There's people that put metal fence posts and they're light gauge stuff. And I understand why they put them in. They're putting them in because they believe the delineation of their property in the towns is the edge of asphalt. That's a misconception, it's not true. When the snow volume gets to such a point that we have to push them back, we'll very conveniently take those down,
Okay.
with very little effort at all.
And at least those you can see,
Well, I just,
Oh, we can see them,
yes.
and we will remove them.
oh, okay. I didn't know whether or not they actually posed additional potential hazards.
Not really, I mean, not to a snowplow. None of them are big granite mounds or anything like that. They're light gauge posts, and, you know, they're great when we have snow like we've had to this point, which is virtually none. But once we get a volume and we start winging back, yeah, they're gone,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And I'll get phone calls. But that
Well, I
won't be the first or last
realize
phone
that
call.
because I've gotten phone calls too.
Yeah. Back to the hazards though, before I forget. So starting this year, because sadly, I kind of knew this would happen at some point in time, I am going to start stump grinding. Most of these hazards are due to, and Unitil's done a great job. Since the ice storm back in 2008, they've gone around and done a lot of tree work to, you know, give their lines some type of a success during ice storms. So they removed a lot of trees, but they take them down to a foot or less to the ground, so there was a bunch of stumps in town. Haven't done it because there's a cost, but I'm gonna need to systematically start grinding these stumps out of that area so we can avoid this situation.
The ones that are
happening
close
again.
to the road.
Yeah, I mean, if they're
Give them
back,
hazard.
if they're back 3 or 4 or 5 feet, we'll just leave them. But if they're, like, this stump happened to be like 6 inches off the edge of asphalt. So it's, you're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it again if we don't. Well, if that one's been marked since, but some of these are gonna have to go.
All right.
That's the end of that one.
Anybody have any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next item is the 2020 snow plowing season policy.
Questions? You got
I'm
that?
leaving that for the board to discuss. I will not be participating in this discussion.
In that case, I'll take over. Mr. Road Agent, would you care to discuss your policy?
The policy's exactly the same as it has been right along.
Okay.
The only difference was there was a $1 increase to the hired trucks. Those rates have maintained the same for the last 13 years with no increase. I am slowly, this year included, getting more difficult to hire trucks because we're not competitive with the surrounding towns. We're still not competitive with those rates, but at least it's an increase.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2020 snow policy, season policy as written.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? Is this retroactive to January or?
January 1. January 1.
Okay. I want
It usually
that
goes
in there if I
19,
can.
20, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, that's all.
Return the chair.
All right, I'm back. We are now going to the fire rescue station, so we would like to have the construction manager come to the podium.
Just a different hat, that's all. Mike Pavero, Construction Manager, Eastern Seaboard. I'm not sure what the update is. We've got individuals here that are gonna put their, or the questions that you guys wanna ask the individuals about the update. Mine is the same as it's been for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. We are, so I'm gonna ask what the selectmen need for answers at this point, because I know you guys need certain questions answered to move along.
So I just have one question, because it's my understanding you asked for this meeting, but it had to be rescheduled. Originally, it was going to be December something.
No, he didn't ask for the meeting, Jeff.
Who? Jeff did, okay.
So
So-
why don't we have Jeff come up to the
Right.
podium and start us off here?
That'll work.
Good idea.
Good evening, Jeff Murphy, SFC Engineering. I did ask for this meeting. I'm not sure how the format's going to work, but hopefully we can kind of get through it. As you know, we have been representing the town to finalize the modifications to the sprinkler system for full code compliance over at the new fire station. For the past year or so, we've been progressing on that. We've had some hiccups along the way with contractors that we've since resolved, but in the last 3 or so months, there's been a couple of side conversations, small groups of people of the whole stakeholder group having questions. And most recently, myself, Selectman Doggett, and the chief had a call middle of December, sound about right? Maybe just before Christmas. And during that call, it was clear that there was some gray areas that had been developed over the last year, or some information that had slipped through on different things. So I felt it was important that everybody kind of be on the same page moving forward so that we can positively finish this off.
I agree. So why don't you turn these gray areas black for us?
Sure. I'll do what I can, and hopefully anyone interrupt me, ask questions or whatnot. But the quick synopsis of where we are is last September, SFC got involved doing a site walk to work through the final punch out of the fire station. At that time, it was discovered by myself that the sprinkler system installed was not a full NFPA 13 system, which is what is prescriptively required by the state fire code. Some initial research showed that the designer of record of that system, the contractor, had made some allowances for a less than complete system, and everybody on the team was under the impression that that had made it through all the policies, procedures, approvals, and was what was intended. We learned that that actually did not get through everyone that they thought it did, including the state fire marshal. We had some conversations. The decision was made as part of the final punch out and signed by the select board in October of last year to modify the system that was there to bring it into full prescriptive compliance. Starting in January, the team got back together, January of 2019, got back together to start planning for summer construction because the intent was to have it done by August 31st. At that time, the decision was made to continue with the original construction team, and I fully supported that at the time. Mike supported that at the time. Mike, the construction manager. It became apparent by May, June that that contractor was not as responsive as I would have thought they would have been. And Mike, I don't know if you want to say anything, but it seemed like they were not interested in really bringing the project to conclusion.
Because so much time had gone by, the original sprinkler contractor got overbooked. I don't think it was as much as he wasn't interested in completing the project. He just didn't have a window to complete it. He had too much work in his books, and he couldn't follow through with what we were looking at as a schedule at that time.
Okay.
One thing, let me just jump in. I gotta clarify something, because if Joe Smacatelli, that doesn't know how we got here, turns on this TV tonight and hears part of what Jeff just said, I'm gonna clarify. The construction manager and the contractors were directed from the local building inspector to put that sprinkler system in the way it's installed in the building right now. There was no interpretation issues. There was no, let's cut a corner issue. It was by his direction is how that system was put in. And he was gonna get the waiver from the state fire marshal. Right up to the last inning, 2 outs, is when we found out that that was never done. And I was ensured continually through the project that that was gonna happen.
All right, Jeff?
Yep, and I can echo that. So all of the documentation that came from the original contractor was very clear that that was the design intent. The design intent is what was installed. I can't speak to, and that's why I asked Mike to come up. I can't speak to the steps.
Good evening. I just want to go on the tails of the project manager. For the record, the building inspector was doing everything in his power in good faith for the sprinkler system to help out the town of Newton, okay? In October, just quickly, in October, Mr. Pierce asked the question, and it was put simple that the individual that was doing it no longer works for the town. But that gave the impression, because I started hearing it, that he was sent home by the town. I just want to clear it
Can I
up. that he
move
was
to
doing-
go in non-public session
Well,
under
which is fine.
RSA
All in
91A3
good faith, that's all.
2C reputation?
I'm just saying that everything was done in good faith. I'm not mentioning names. Everything was done.
All right.
Can I get a
So-
second?
Second for
Basically,
discussion.
we don't need to discuss a former, what it,
That's
okay,
fine.
but we're done.
I'll take my motion off the table.
Okay. Okay, Jeff, moving on.
So then I just think it's important everybody understands where we are right now. So midsummer, it was apparent to myself and Mike that we were not going to get full support out of the original contractor. At that time, I met with you folks again. We had a conversation at the selectmen level and said, look, we need to move this forward. We committed to it. We're starting to slip behind. At that time, I reached out to another firm, John L. Carter Sprinkler Company out of Bow, New Hampshire, to see if they had some interest in coming down, taking a look at the project. They did. They're actually here tonight, just representing their side of the table. And at that point, the decision was made by the construction manager in through consultation with myself and I think the Board of Selectmen to get moving with another contractor so we can get it done. That has been in progress since October of 19, probably, and not necessarily full design work, but you started talking to Brian. October, kind of came to an understanding on the scope of work, what was going to be done, and that is in process right now, and we expect to continue forward. I don't know how far this board wants to go, or if there's been some more conversations. There was some discussion about a neighboring town and some differences or similarities to what's going on here. I think it's important to at least have a conversation as all the stakeholders that what we're talking about in the town of Newton is a new building, a new construction situation versus existing buildings. So it's a little bit apples to oranges, and I can say, as recently as yesterday, I spoke to someone at the fire marshal's office, and that municipality did not get a permanent variance to not sprinkle their firehouse. They got some time allotment to work to find the best solution for their town, which may include a new construction, but they're on a path for full compliance in the near future as well too. So we're kind of at this point right now where we're looking to still continue along, but I want to make sure that all the stakeholders that are involved in the project are still pushing in the same direction and that every person involved has the same information and at the same time to move forward.
Well, I will just say that when the neighboring town was brought to the board's attention and a potential, it was decided, or it was maintained by the board, that we were to continue with the project as you guys are working on it, while on the side, somebody else looked into the potential of a variance if there was such a thing. we were not putting a halt or a freeze to what you're doing in anticipation of something that might happen.
Okay.
All right, so we are expecting you to keep moving straight forward.
Okay, and that's a critical path to understand. So.
Well, at the same time, understanding that we have actually authorized the application for the variance.
And there are decision points, right? Because we're not going to be investing a lot of money at the start. It's going to be planning. It's going to be paying for plans, which we're okay with paying for plans. But it's when we get to that point, whether we're going to, invest a lot of this money to get it done, that's when we're going to have to make a decision whether the variance is a reality or not.
And one of the things that I feel the board needs to know, and this came up during our conversation that day, is it would be nice if the board could have at least a rough understanding of the difference between what you are planning, which involves the
Pump house,
generator,
pump.
propane, the generator with the system versus the phase 3 electricity, which is what the variance is to, would allot us time until phase 3 came through there.
So, and I obviously don't have full construction costs right now.
Right.
My professional opinion right now is that it will, even if three-phase power was on Merrimack Road right now, to go to an electric fire pump would be more costly than going to a diesel.
Oh.
And there's some more people here that can speak to that, but the Unitil is only gonna bring you power to the entrance to the driveway, and we now would need to extend that cabling from Merrimack Road to the fire pump at the rear of the fire station. So there's an installation cost to that would be offset by a savings of pump type.
I seem to recall, I suggested that, that's a major thing that the board really needs to know.
Absolutely, and that's
Is
why
it-
we're here tonight.
In which case, if what you're saying right now bears out, then it would actually be cheaper for us to go with the generated.
Diesel. Diesel fire pump versus electric.
I cannot say that word at the moment. So if we go the way that you're predicting, that will actually be
Can't
cheaper
recuperate none of that money
than
from the
three-phase,
first company?
a three-phase system.
That's my belief right now, and I'm not.
If you can supply us with information to back that up, we may or may not choose to give up on the idea of requesting a variance.
I also think that it's important to have a conversation, and it's somewhat semantics and terminology, but a variance is a permanent thing to the building. So if you were to go to a variance to the town, or a variance to the state fire code, that is different than modifying our plan of action and timeline to extend it out longer. Those are two different things as well.
And I think this board has said before, we're looking for a permanent solution. I totally hear what you're saying. If we're going to get a variance, it's going to get us 5 years. I don't think anybody's interested in that
Right.
in this board. I think we're looking for a variance that's permanent. If we can't get it permanent, then we're going to go with the solution, the more expensive solution, unfortunately. But I don't think we want to sign up, this to happen every 5 years, that we have to apply for a variance for what we're doing.
Or
Yeah,
an,
no, a
or,
vari-
or an extension, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, extension.
How's that?
Yeah, yeah.
In the meantime, I hope you're clear that the board is expecting you and the team to continue on.
I am now.
Okay, good. And does that take care of everything that you wanted to share? Is there anything else that needs to be shared? Where are you in the process? When do you think you'll be
So-
bringing something new to the board?
Yep. After I would say middle of December, we have slowed down because there was that confusion. I felt that the board was looking to make a decision. Do we want to go for a variance? And it was like, well, that's when I said, I think we need to get together and figure out. So I would expect we're probably a month away from having plans completed by Carter Sprinkler, roughly. I'll let Mike speak to construction season. What's gonna really, because of where we are in the season, you're bound by construction season limitations.
And will the board see the plans before construction begins? Not that I anticipate I'm gonna be able to.
Oh, you'll definitely see the plans. If that's accurate, you've got plans and a hard construction cost in 30 days. We're not breaking ground till after April 15th.
Okay.
It just doesn't make sense up there.
You have to wait for the ground thaw, right?
The thaw, the water, the groundwater, it's still high in the spring, but, we gotta get it, the site conditions need to improve before we go out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to see at these, these updates, and if we have to kind of read a memo update into the minutes, maybe we could do it, but I think what I want to see is, this is the update on the variance application, or if I'm using the wrong terminology, insert proper terminology, but this is the update on that application, and this is the update on the construction project, so that we know as we go along, there's going to come that point where we have to abandon one over the other. So I think if we had that sort of timeline, whoever needs to, speak to that, if they don't necessarily need to come to each meeting, but we need to have the information that we can share with the town.
And Jeff, we are not expecting you to provide any updates on extension or variance, only on the project that you're working on.
Okay, and that was my question.
I kinda thought
I
so.
have had some initial conversations with the fire marshal about that, so
Yes.
whoever is running point on that should give me a call.
So is it the fire chief that's running point? Okay, he's shaking his head. So who's running point?
Jeff is running point on that? Oh, Jeff is running point on
And that's part of the question.
Okay, there we go.
I was gonna say, with all due respect, the fire chief has stood out of this entire project until October, when the board authorized me to call the marshal to work on an extension.
Okay, so Jeff, are you aware that you are running point on this?
There was some initial discussion on our call with Selectman Doggett and the chief, but as a result of that call, I did make an initial conversation. I think this is what we're talking about, though. There was some discrepancy on that call on whether we were looking for an extension or we were looking for a variance to not do the work and do something else. So that's a conversation that needs to happen to move that
Well,
forward.
the question was whether or not we could get a variance, because the term variance is what was brought to us. Yes, chief?
Per the board's request in October, I contacted the fire marshal's office. You have a public record, my email I sent, when I discussed it, and I was under the assumption from the board wanted an extension just in case the funds came up a little, to be able to buy some time, for example, to purchase it. At no point in time did I talk to the current fire marshal about a variance for not to do nothing to this sprinkler system. Okay? So,
No, I'm just talking about, it was, what, 2 meetings ago?
Yeah,
in my opinion, if the board is going to hire Jeff to work on a variance to keep the sprinkler system the way it is, you're wasting taxpayers' money.
Yeah, you're paying
Okay,
full.
now, it was somebody else who came to the board and said, oh, well, we just found out that we could go for a variance.
So-
Now, I may have to go back to the
The
video.
terminologies could be a little off. Okay, I got a lesson too, but I said this a year ago to the press. I always was under the assumption to buy time for 3 phase to come in to help bring the costs down. In October, I thought the intention, when I talked to the marshal's office, and it's in my letter, was to buy some time, because I had misinformation too. I was told that another town got a variance, they never have to do a sprinkler system in the fire station. Incorrect. And talking to the marshal personally, they have a 2-year extension. Within 2 years, they either gotta do a new fire station or put a sprinkler system in. Simple. So, again, in my email, it clearly states, in my conversation with Jeff and Jim in December, they can attest to it. I think I said the exact same thing, that at no point in time did I ever talk to the fire marshal about never doing nothing to the sprinkler system. The sprinkler system has to get finished. It's just a matter of what power unit you want to do and when you want to do it. But it has to get completed.
I'm now up to date. I think the fire chief filled in the holes for me there. But basically, we're in here in October, in a meeting. The fire chief got up and explained that this other town had I'm still calling it a variance.
That's what
Had
we-
a variance. The chief said we should find out, somebody should find out from the fire marshal what went into that. So there you go. The chief calls up. We find out that, as you talked about, it's apples and oranges, okay? It's not the same application as it is here. So I had brought that information to the board probably in September based on our conversation, Jeff. So what I think we need to decide tonight, is it at all reality, possibility to get a permanent variance? And if it is, who is going to be responsible to get us that answer? If it's not a possibility, then to the chief's point, let's just
Put it
not
to
even
bed.
go there. I'll go on the record, I'm sure the other 4 up here will go on the record. If we can do the low-cost option, I'm all over that. But if it's not a reality, then I don't want to waste any time.
Yes.
The idea of getting a permanent variance to finish what's there and go no further, to me, would be neither wise nor prudent. An extension, my interpretation has always been that we were going to the state fire marshal for an extension or a continuance of the occupancy of the building until such time as three-phase came in, and with the understanding that three-phase would be less expensive than the present diesel system that's being designed.
But that's not
If
what
we're-
was brought to the board at the
No, it wasn't.
last meeting where it was discussed.
Yeah, it was discussed
It
as
was
a variance.
It wasn't an extension.
It was a variance.
That's not what I heard.
Right.
Was, yeah.
Yeah, same.
And part of it is the semantics of the words that we
Yeah,
use that
yeah,
night.
yeah.
I have no problem with an extension. I don't expect there to be a variance. I don't think that we even have the possibility of having a variance because it is new construction. New construction, they're not going to look at us and go, oh, yeah, you don't have to sprinkle this because we like you. I mean, the other town that may or may not have received one has different justifications, and it's not Newton.
So what are you seeking an extension for? There's no purpose for an extension.
The only reason was that if three-phase was going to be
Right, but
exceptionally lower,
it's not.
since it's not, I mean, I'd like to hear some numbers, but
So the extension's off the books and the variance is off the books.
the variance
The
to me
new
is off the
Carter
board. The
plans are
extension,
installed,
That's what I'm hearing, is that
the bottom line.
it sounds like it's not worth pursuing, and we should just focus completely on the construction option.
So Jeff, could I please get you to reiterate for us your opinion about cost between the potential of a Phase 3 generator versus a diesel generator, and whether or not there would be sufficient cost savings to warrant pursuit?
Based on information I know at this point, preliminary numbers, and talking to a couple of different contractors, I would expect at best to be net neutral on the two things. I think as part of our due diligence to the town of Newton, we can formulate that for a minor increase. We can put an actual cost estimate together for that so that you folks can put it to bed permanently and know. But that's where I believe it's gonna go. Is there anyone disagrees?
No, I agree with what Jeff just said. And the variable is, and we don't have to make this more complicated, three-phase does not exist on Merrimack Road. The numbers that we have kind of budgeted in conversations, this is if three-phase was on 8 Merrimack Road right now. To bring it underground, bring it into the building. And I say into the building, can't bring it into the building anyhow, because the building isn't sized to take the pumps and fire pump guys there. Now, you're still putting a pump house in. So, you know, if Unitil wasn't agreeable, and they have no motivation to bring three-phase onto Merrimack Road, there's no industrial park going up the street. So there's no motivator for them to incur the cost to bring three-phase onto Merrimack Road. So that's gonna be more on top of the budget numbers that Jeff is referring to.
Right, so even if we were to potentially seek an extension based on the hypotheses that there would be a savings if we got Phase 3, there is nothing from Unitil that says they're going to even bring in Phase 3 in the next 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So we couldn't even provide we want an extension for 3 years for when the Phase 3 comes in, because
Yeah,
we
we'd
don't,
be throwing a dart
we
at the
don't have
dartboard.
that. So this is we're asking for an extension for something that there's no guarantee it'll ever come in.
That is
Correct?
That is correct.
All right, so to me, that's chasing pipe dreams.
Yep.
No pun intended.
Correct. Thank you. So my personal opinion is to put the thought of extension and/or variance to bed permanently, and
Yeah.
just, yes, Diane?
So, just as a resident, I would ask the question of Jeff. Do you see any possibility of a variance, whereas I've been told that you can consider the office area and the apparatus bay as 2 separate buildings because there's a 5-hour rated firewall there? So, in what I've been told and what I've heard is that they should be considered as 2 separate buildings. Therefore, the apparatus bay could go with a dry system is what you have right now, right?
So the number I heard was a 3-hour rated.
5-hour rated.
I haven't heard 5. I've heard 2 and I've heard
Heard
3. I
5.
haven't heard 5 yet.
I think it's 3.
Is it 3 or
three.
5?
I think it's 3.
What is it?
3 hour.
3, okay, 3 hours. So does that consider it a separate building?
So no, it does not consider it a separate building, especially with the mezzanine that's running over the top of the administrative wing, that
Okay.
there really is no wall all the way to the roof. And further, I don't want to dive into the technical too much, but I think it's important to state that we're actually providing a fire pump and additional water for both the apparatus bay side and the administrative side. Neither of those right now are prescriptively compliant with NFPA 13.
So the variance is totally off the table at this point.
Does that make sense to everybody?
So the admin's not even in compliance?
What's that?
So the admin side's not in compliant either?
That is correct, and that's on the original shop drawings from the contractor.
We should really go
As
after
part
this
of
guy
the
that
initial
installed this
design.
and get our
Again, I
money
was
back.
not part of that, but we're actually providing it for both
We
sides.
can't go after anyone if the person who drafted it acted on good faith based on information that was provided to them.
Built a spec.
And you hit the nail on the head. With that statement you just said, you hit the nail on the head. Again, an individual here is the one that broke the building into 13 and 13R. So 13R would be the administrative end of the building right now, but it doesn't fall into 13R. But that's where they were going with the original intent and how that is put in up there. But it all died on the vine, never got followed through.
So, to me, the extension is off the table. The variance is off the table. I don't want to hear about it again. I just want to move forward with getting the sprinkler system up to code and doing what it takes to do it. Does anyone else have any thing to the contrary to say? Or is the board in agreement?
Do you want a motion?
So there's
We can
no,
have a motion, yes.
there's no chance of a variance, just because this is very contrary to the meeting we had. I guess it was the language. The only reason we're going to go through with it, because we...
And that's why we're
got the
having
right-
this one right now.
I
No-
can't say no chance. I can say I would not expect one.
And there's
I've
no-
had some initial conversations with representatives from the fire marshal. I know the chief has also,
And they're indicating a no,
indicating it's a brand-new building.
and there's no precedence.
How
for
about it's the same chance a snowball has of surviving Florida?
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen direct Jeff, and sorry, your last name is
Murphy.
Okay.
to continue on with the diesel pump sprinkler system plans with the exclusion of variances, extensions, what have you.
Do we want what have you in the motion?
You don't have to put the words what have you in the motion.
I don't even think we need a motion.
Yeah,
Just continue the
I will
work.
second for discussion. I think it's,
Ask the chair if she wanted a motion, she said that.
Right.
I think it's good just to put to bed that they are to move forward
With the
as
construction.
planned.
as planned with no more consideration towards variance or extensions.
I like that motion, Jim.
That was basically what I said.
Just trying to
That's his motion,
simplify
Diane.
for, yeah.
Yeah,
Moving on.
continue as planned.
Quote for floor
I'll
maintenance.
second that one.
All right, so seconded. Any further discussion?
Before you do it,
So you are a
I gotta put
discussion?
my 2 cents in.
All right,
Kills me to do this, but I gotta do it.
Please do.
I think you've left the horse out of the barn. And what I mean by that is, you've talked about a variance, you've talked about a waiver. There's taxpayers in town that have already got wind of this. To kill it on the vine right now, you might as well hit each one of yous in the head with a hammer.
But we've already heard that,
No, what I would do, my suggestion is pursue your waiver, pursue your variance. Can't take that much time. Get it going.
And we know it's true.
Get a letter from the state fire marshal that says, yeah, no waiver, you're done. And then you don't have any explaining to do. You do what you're about to do right now, you guys got explaining to do.
okay.
My recommendation, and at the same time, we will pursue doing it the way we're supposed to be doing it.
All right, so Jeff, you had said something about for a nominal fee.
Yes.
And that's the reason for my,
Yeah, I don't think you need to put a strong, put the facts on the table and see what
What
the
is your
response
nominal fee? Because I could do it for nothing.
Go for it.
All right, so you
No,
want,
in all honesty, you don't need me to do that.
I
Wait,
mean,
wait,
it's just,
wait a minute.
I mean, no
Like-
due, no
all right,
due
so
respect
hold
or
on.
anything.
First, we have a motion on the table. Either the motion gets
I will
rescinded or
rescind my motion.
All right, so that motion is rescinded. Now,
Can I just, real quick, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So what Mike said, and I don't say this often, is absolutely true, right?
Yes, I do agree.
And actually, I'm getting deja vu because that's kind of what I thought we asked for at the last meeting, that the fire chief, as our representative, could write a letter to the fire marshal to get the affirmative answer, not affirmative answer, but the
Definitive?
the definitive answer so that we could have that, hey,
Piece of paper, yeah.
And in all due respect, in the email that I sent the board
Yeah.
from the fire marshal, the property owner has to do that.
Yeah.
I am not the property owner,
okay,
okay? And to Mike's point, I also said the exact same thing.
yeah.
The board should not, nobody in this room should make that decision to deny a variance, a waiver, an extension, whatever you want to call it, except the gentleman
Difference.
who's higher than I am in Concord.
All right,
Because
so,
if anybody does that, it's not going to be good.
so I did hear a volunteer to contact the state fire marshals and request something in writing stating that whether or not there is any potential for a variance on the
So
sprinkler
I'll take care of
system.
that.
Thank you.
So if you can please, yeah, or a waiver or an extension.
Right.
If you could please do that in writing and request the response in writing.
But it doesn't, I really don't think it changes the motion at all, because it's, as Mike said, you know, it's basically for filing, in a sense. We're still pursuing the same
Yeah.
thing, but, you know, if people want to see it in black and white, we'll have it.
So in the meantime, Jeff, you are just business as usual?
Yeah.
We'll continue along,
Yes,
absolutely.
you are business as usual. So do what you got to do to keep things moving so we can close this project.
We're on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, our next item, quote for floor maintenance on the fire rescue station.
And he's back.
Good evening. I emailed in a proposal for the selectmen to review in regards to the flooring at the fire station. I've been working with the police chief and trying to get both buildings done together. Unfortunately, the fire station floor is about a year and a half, give or take 18 months. The floor at the fire station desperately needs some tender loving care, or the way it was explained to me, probably in about 6 to 8 months, you're gonna be putting a new floor in. You have a proposal on the table. The only thing I'd like to amend that proposal, I forgot how much you have for him, the individual to come in during the day.
1680.
Okay. If there's any way, if the board feels, agrees to, we changed to add, that has 4 coats, a sealer. This would have 6 coats, and it would be 1,900.
What has oh, so you have other numbers that's not part of this quote?
Correct. This is the amended one, and talking to the police chief and getting it done once, like you have there, because that's gonna be my recommendation, and then to set up a program. This is just for the fire department. We're gonna call them for the police chief, for them to come in,
The 6 coats?
and maintain that floor. The floor is mopped every day. Unfortunately,
I think so.
all you gotta do is take a look at it.
Should it say 6 coats?
All right, so I have a question.
About 6 coats, yeah.
How often is this type of treatment going to be needed? Is this going to be an annual thing? Will the 4 coats or 6 coats or whatever last 12 months, 18 months, 36 months?
It depends on which contractor you talk to. Some contractors say that should get done twice a year, some say that should get quarterly,
Twice a year?
okay? Right now,
That's expensive.
Yeah.
well, unfortunately, with all due respect, there's a $1.7 million building sitting over there that has high maintenance costs. This is gonna be one of them. High maintenance costs compared to 35 South Main Street. This recommendation is to get this done now before we lose the floors and cost us more. And then the fire chief, along with the police chief, will come back in the future with another proposal to have both our floors done on a regular basis. And that'd be up to individuals that know flooring better than I do.
Yeah, I would like to kind of nip this in the bud and get something done soon, but I think we need a more permanent solution.
Well, you're not going to come up with a more permanent solution regarding sealing. I mean,
No, I'm talking about a permanent solution. Are we doing it? Is a vendor doing it? Are we buying the
that
equipment?
is,
right, buying the
that's
equipment.
actually something
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have spoken with the chief before, because his men do a good job of keeping it looking very good, as does the police chief. However, the town does not own the equipment to maintain these floors properly.
Right.
We may want to look into the possibility of what it would cost for our own buffer versus having somebody come in and do the buffing and stripping.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with you, Jim. I just kind of want to approve this, get this done, so it.
And then we have
nip in
plenty
the
of time
bud.
to look
Exactly.
into for the future.
But if,
Because we don't move that fast, and what you're talking about, it makes sense, getting all this data, but it could take us a while
If you
to
don't-
put all that.
if you don't have an
in place.
experienced person to run that buffer, you're gonna be fixing holes in the wall.
Oh, exactly, that's,
obviously, the different contractors want the job. And Mr. Foot's 100% correct. You put an inexperienced person and they burn through that floor, those tiles, or they take that buffer and put it through a wall. All I'm asking for is for the approval to get this done now to save the floor. Because as Mr. Burrell put it, this could be 6 months from now before the police chief and I come back to the board. We don't want to lose those floors.
I'll make a motion to authorize the fire chief to spend $1,905 for a daytime six-coat
Strip and refinish.
strip and refinish of all the floors in the administrative side of the fire department. One question I do have is, in reading the list, they only have,
Can we not have the question as
Okay,
part of the
sorry.
motion?
Second.
okay,
Thank you.
second, now I can ask my question. It only says restroom, it doesn't say, there's no S on that. I just want to make sure I didn't just say,
It covers all restaurants.
lie by
He's
saying.
going by the square footage. So if the square footage is 2 restrooms, it's 2 restrooms. If it's
Okay.
3
Okay.
restrooms, when he came, I was not there. When he came and meet with the individuals, he was clearly told the entire administrative section. The only thing he was not shown was the electric room. He was shown the kitchen,
Right.
drill room, all the offices, conference,
So that
restrooms.
side of your building is 1,400 square feet?
That's what he's estimating at.
Okay.
All right, now the other part of this proposal that we have in front of us is for weekly.
No, that is what you have on the bottom.
Yes.
We are asking for the top. The bottom is different proposals that the chief and I are going to get together and talk about, them coming in weekly, give it a quick buff, coming in quarterly, different, as Matt put, we're going to do our homework. That's what we got hired for. We're going to do our homework and come forward with the best proposal to maintain both those buildings.
Okay.
So where's that 2,000 coming out of, what budget?
Yeah, exactly. Where's it coming from?
That would have to come out of government buildings.
You might want to take a real hard look at that, because I didn't budget for any of this stuff. We don't have that much in there, but I'm just saying the board needs to look at that
A
one.
2020
Well,
budget?
technically, we don't have anything in the 2020
Right.
budget yet
Right.
because we haven't.
Well, it's the same amount that we had last year.
Yes.
But we're getting hit with a
Moving it
lot more
around.
things that we didn't know about. I'm just saying, you might want to increase that.
So here's my question. We're getting hit with a lot of things we didn't know about. What
Well,
are
this-
those?
This is one of them. There's
But what are
probably-
the others?
Well, there's others. The police department's got the same issue.
Right, but have we committed to those others yet?
No, but I'm just saying, I want the board to take a look and make sure we don't have that much money in there, and that
Right,
has to
and-
cover all buildings.
I know, but
So how much?
to me, it's whatever,
First come, first served.
well, in a way, it's prioritizing what we may have.
Well-
Basically, I want to maintain the integrity of these floors. We
No, I
invested a lot of
understand.
money in
I
that.
understand
If there's something else, that's why I'm asking you. If there's something else that's like, has to be done,
Like a
we're-
roof caving in or
like a
something.
roof caving in, we need to know about
I
that.
gave you guys a list, it's on the shared, so you can look at all the things that the police department has requested. And the Gale Library, furnaces could let go.
Yeah,
I'm just
it's a
saying,
big bill.
there's
So-
things out there.
So let me pose the question, put the other chief on the spot. In terms of, and you know better than any of us, you always have that list of things you need to get done, but you have to shuffle. Would you put this high on your list? Yeah.
It's something that we need to get done. There's one thing I don't recall my list, but
Yeah.
some of my stuff on the list would be nice to have.
Right,
I
right,
think I had one thing that I had to have,
yeah.
and that was the only one thing I had to have.
What
Everything
was,
else, we'll work on it as we
Can
go.
you speak into the mic? No one's going to hear you.
He has a needs and a want list.
Exactly.
yeah,
I got one want.
yeah,
And I brought that up a few months ago, we're waiting for quotes on that.
right. In a I know which one you're talking about, ballpark on that? I know you're
I thought
waiting
that
on.
was gonna be, I thought it was like $4,000
Yeah,
for the lower quote, the other one was 20,000.
yeah. Yeah. And that's, yes, that is a need,
Yeah.
that one, yeah. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. I don't want to see these floors get out of hand where there's no coming back. To me, it's like your driveway, right? Like, I always get my driveway seal coated every couple of years, so I don't have to redo the whole driveway, right? That's the way I'm looking at it, and I
Well,
might
that's why I
have,
was asking
yeah.
how often we're going to have to do this, because if it's once this year, once every other year or whatever, it can be accounted for. But if they're gonna come back in 3 months and say, you know, we need to do this again, and it's another 2,000, now you're talking $8,000 for the
Well,
year for the floor.
Yep.
I can tell you this. This is technically the 1 year in the new fire station, okay? You need a few years to average out the cost. They just filled up those propane tanks today. There's a lot. It's a big building. So to Nancy's point, if the board is keeping status quo on town buildings,
Not gonna work.
department heads have been in front of the board for needs and wants, and we've been denied. So if he can give you better numbers than I can. And Madam Chair, you're gonna be close to the number you just gave. So what I'm trying to get at is, Nancy might have a good point, that the board might have to bring up town buildings.
Yep.
When that, as Nancy said it, I believe that's been the same number for a few years.
It's many, many years, yes.
You got a brand-new fire station sitting up there. So the cost of everything, it is going up.
Well, to play devil's advocate here, most people think new building, less maintenance costs. Just like new car, less maintenance costs. As the car gets older, it costs more to maintain. So this is a new building. Is it really going to cost $8,000 this year to do this maintenance? And if it is, and if we don't do it, it'll cost us $30,000 to replace the floor. I'm just looking for actual numbers I can wrap my head around.
And that's a fair enough question. I'm going to try to answer it simply. The operating cost of that building per square foot is a lot cheaper than the old fire station. The building's bigger, so it's all relative. You got a bigger building, it's more expensive to maintain, same as a bigger house.
Right.
It's new, so it's more efficient. To stay focused on the floors, what's happened to the floor in the new fire station is, it's a maintenance issue. The reason why that cost us so much is they've got to strip it now. If you maintain the floors, and Mike and I have had the conversation, I know how this operation works, you have to put in place a maintenance thing. It's gonna cost money, but the cost per square foot of maintenance is a lot cheaper than having to go in and strip it and put 6 coats back on it. They'll go in and buff it, a lot less. It's gonna be done more often, but it's still gonna be a lot cheaper. So you've gotta get that into the equation. And back to what both chiefs just said.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah, but the town, in a few meetings ago, there was a resident in town at this podium trying to explain that the town now has grown, it has more inventory, it has more buildings. Hence, it's more expensive to maintain it, just like all of our houses. So you're gonna have to start budgeting more money for these facilities under government buildings, because I can tell you, and it doesn't hit me, it hits these two chiefs. If you want these guys to maintain the buildings out of their budgets, that's unfair. It's government buildings.
No, I agree with that. We've had that discussion.
Right. So
Everybody
this
agrees with
conversation you
We-
guys
we
have
all
now for
agree
floors
that-
and other stuff, increase your budget. You're gonna have to
Yeah,
maintain the building.
I'm just trying to make sure that we are spending the money wisely and efficiently. So, like I said, is it 8,000 now or 30,000 next year? That's the questions that I'm looking at. So, how frequently do we need to do this? But now I I'm hearing that there is possible maintenance, which is that done weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever, which would extend the life and not cause us to have to pay the 2,000 for the floor.
What happened to our time limit that we have on
Yeah.
the agenda here?
This is,
We're
we're
beating it
kind,
to death.
we're kind of
So,
off that.
but anyways, that is for a later discussion when you two get together, work up your numbers, present them to us, okay? We can go with that. We do have a motion on the table,
We do?
yes, to authorize the 1905.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah, way back 20 minutes ago.
We
Yeah.
still have it.
Okay.
All right, so if there is no further,
Did I second it?
you
Yeah,
did.
you did.
So second friendly amendment out of general government and buildings.
Correct.
Certainly, that's,
All right, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye. And then if we could, next meeting, let's take a look at
correct.
Options.
what we've hit so far.
This is poured concrete?
What we're anticipating
No,
for
it's like
costs and what
tiles.
we've
Oh, that's
budgeted
supposed to
for,
be the best.
so that we can
Right.
propose
put, I think,
changes
like
if
one
necessary.
coat and
Okay,
just put it
thank you.
down.
Oh,
So,
It's on the
So you
shared.
know we're done with that subject, right?
Yeah, I think I'm on for the next one,
what do
too.
you want, lease quotes?
Okay, our next item, lease quotes for new fire truck.
Per the board's request, I believe a year ago and this year, we've contacted 3 different manufacturers. The fire department's recommendation would be to replace 2 of the fire apparatus. One is basically almost the 2 oldest, the 2 most costly, and get 1 apparatus that can do the job of both a rescue pumper. The decision would be ultimately up to the Board of Selectmen. If the Board of Selectmen would like to trade in the vehicles, sell the vehicles outright, and which vehicles they'd like to replace. I have one more quote. For some reason, I don't have it. You didn't receive it. They're all within 40,000 of each other. As I am standing at the podium now, there's only one manufacturer that has stepped up and given a written proposal on what the 2 trucks that the fire department was recommending as a trade-in. They're putting it in writing what they'd give the town for those 2 trucks.
is that Greenwood or a different one?
Yeah,
That's Greenwood.
Okay.
And the 2 trucks, the recommendation was
12,000 and 8,000.
Engine 2 and Rescue 6.
Engine 1
I don't have
pumper,
that here.
No, it's an
E1
E1
pumper.
pumper.
Okay.
International Rescue and E1 pumper.
Correct. The E1 pumper is the 91 Engine 2
Okay.
that the town has spent, I brought it up, I think $160,000 since 2011, and it's set, if the budget does not get approved, that's one of them that needs to get fixed. Rescue 6 is another one that needs to get fixed for it to pass inspection this year.
What's the total for the truck?
So, silly question, most of us, when we trade in an old car to get a new car, we're picking up the new car that day. I would
Be the same
assume
thing.
it would be the same thing?
It'd be the same thing. We traded in, I believe it was the old Tank 4 when I became chief for the new Tank 4. That vehicle does not leave the lot,
Mhm.
the fire apparatus, until the new one is in town.
Right, right.
And again, the cost, you're buying 2 fire trucks combined to 1. You're buying an engine and you're buying a rescue. The good part about any fire truck the town buys, purchases in the future, you don't have to have it customized and pay that extra funds, because it will fit in the fire station.
Yeah.
actually, that was actually one of my questions, is on one of the proposals, they did list certain customizations.
The individuals, there's been about 4 to 5 of us that have been meeting with the manufacturers. They're all the same. The amendment that you see, when we met with the individual the first time, he never included it. So when we just met with him before the holidays, we went through the specs on both, well, actually on all 3, to make sure everybody is compatible. The first manufacturer that I didn't give you, he does not accept trades. He will not even take the trucks and trades. He'll give you a recommendation on who the town can contact for the trades. We're trying to compare apples to apples, okay? There's only one manufacturer there, and we're trying to get a truck that can hold a lot of water. There's only one manufacturer there that will give us a truck with 1,500 gallons. The other ones are 1,250.
What-
We asked for certain things. Big chassis, a lot of water, big compartment space, and a bunch of other things. We have all the specs. I can send the board the specs on both of them. And we're meeting with one of the manufacturers next Tuesday, I believe it is, to go make sure that he is compatible with everybody else. So the rest is the board's decision, if they want to put the vehicle on the warrant, and what vehicles, if they want to do a trade-in or try to sell the vehicles outright, which vehicles they'd like to do.
So it's either a warrant or we straight out lease it? Do we have that
No.
option, or does it have to go to warrant?
Has to go warrant.
With the public.
You have to do a lease with the public?
There's no escape clause
It's the amount.
on the agreement, and with the amount of it,
I'm assuming there isn't, because there wasn't on the last one.
Right.
I don't know.
What we did also, we, meaning the individuals that talk to these manufacturers, in the best interest of the town, we tried getting the lowest interest rates from the manufacturers and the max lease to own that we could, which is the 10-year mark. That way, in reality, in 10 years, you own the fire truck, the rates are less.
So, I mean, we put it on the warrant, it could fail, right?
Correct.
So it's status quo at that point, right?
And then you
Well,
can't purchase it
I
after that?
explained this,
Well, for a year.
I've explained this for many, many years now that I've stood at this podium.
Yeah.
Right now, as of last year, there are 3 vehicles that need to be repaired for them to continue to remain in service.
Mhm.
We increased our budget by $20,000 under the maintenance, vehicle maintenance, which I stated 6 months ago we were going to do, give or take, for it. If the budget gets denied, I do not have the money in the budget to fix those 3 trucks until the end of the year. As the board knows, we ran out of money this year. I kept coming in front of you guys to fix trucks. With that said, the first one, which would be Tank 5, she would have to get fixed and her pump tested, because it's annual, by April. So if the warrant fails, Tank 5, I'll be in front of the board, asking the board, what do you want to do? Because we don't have the money to fix it. Take it out of service. That is the truck that's in the junction. You take it out of service, you might as well just shut the junction down. And then we'll be back in August for Engine 2 and Rescue 6 for the funds for that,
now, didn't you say you increased your budget for that maintenance?
for that maintenance. So if the budget, correct, just to repair those 3 trucks.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you're saying if the proposed budget
Budget fails, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wanted clarification.
Yes, ma'am. There's no, we had 30,000 in there this year without these repairs, and I think we spent 40,000. They're old trucks. So,
So,
there's,
we're going to have a discussion about warrant articles at another meeting.
Just a heads up, you've got less than 2 weeks before your public hearing.
Right, but when are we having, January 20th
That's
is
the
the public
Saturday.
hearing?
Yes.
All right, but are we discussing, that's when we're discussing what warrants are going on the warrant?
No, you need to have a meeting before that to do the budget and the warrant articles in preparation of that meeting
That's
for
what
the
we
public.
favor or not favor the warrant articles,
Well,
right?
you've got to put your budget together, and
Right.
you've got to do all your warrant
So
articles.
we need another meeting in January,
Absolutely.
between now and the
You
20th.
might need 2.
Yeah.
You want to get all this stuff
All
done.
right, well, we're on the 7th now, so I'm thinking at the very least, we can go for the 14th might not be.
I wouldn't wait too long, because I still have a lot of work to do to get it
So
ready.
we do need another meeting, thank you, Chief. However, we need to have another meeting, finalize our proposed budget, and
the
what items we want.
It's on the agenda further down.
But I'd like to see.
Okay, good. So,
I'd like to see what this would look like on the warrant. So I
Alright.
think we need to prepare the warrant article.
they've been prepared.
I
It
For
have-
the
is,
truck.
yes, it's
I
there.
have
Okay.
done that, but I need to know which one and how much.
Nancy has prepared preliminary warrant
seen it,
articles
yeah. I've
and
seen
sent
them.
it to all of
Read
us.
it.
And this is one of those articles.
But I need to know which one he wants to go with. And
Between Greenwood and Pierce, you mean?
Oh, the chief?
All right,
Yeah, it's up to the board too. Are you going to allow
That's what I'm
trade-ins on
saying.
the other two?
yeah, exactly. So, and that's why we need to have the meeting. So we have the journal
Right, but
proposed.
we can figure out right now
Which one would it go?
which one is going to be in the warrant article.
Correct.
Right.
Now,
Are we waiting for a
not to
third
say
thing?
we're
Highest one.
necessarily going to have the warrant article,
Right.
but we
However-
can
however-
fill in the blank.
Just
I
one,
I believe
Aren't you
it's.
still getting numbers
Quick
from
question.
them?
aren't you still waiting for numbers?
I'm still not
it
sure
was
what the
appropriate
difference
for
is.
our due
And did
diligence.
Greenwood have enough water capacity?
They all have their final numbers, which you have there. The only thing is, I'm waiting from one of the manufacturers to see what they would give for a trade-in value for the two trucks. Now, again, I could be spinning my wheels, and the Board of Selectmen choose, they don't want to trade in any vehicles. So if the board votes, they're not going to trade in any vehicles, they're going to sell them outright, then what you have in your hand is final.
Okay, and they
I
both have the
no
water
problem with
capacity?
trading in vehicles.
No.
I'm sorry?
Only the Pierce one.
Oh,
has the
Pierce had the
big-
water capacity you wanted, not Greenwood.
He
I didn't,
wants the
I-
Pierce one.
I'd have to look at them.
oh, so
Can
you
we-
want the Pierce one then?
All right,
Yeah, I have
Kind of
to-
like just
My
poll
recommendation
everybody.
is, if you're going to do it.
I don't have a
highest
problem
amount,
with trade-ins
20,000
either.
I will move to authorize the fire chief to get his bids, including the trading in of the two vehicles as listed.
he's done that,
already got
hasn't he?
that.
He's got that.
No, he has
No, he's
one
waiting
more.
one
He
more.
has it from Greenwood, not from Pierce.
One more coming.
All right,
Right.
but he doesn't need authorization to get the bid. He's already
Well, he
working
wants-
on that.
He wants to know if you'll allow him to trade in. 'cause
That's
if
all he
you
said.
don't want to
That's
do
all he
that,
said.
Right.
that changes everything.
Yeah, we don't want to sell them. Trade them in.
Well, of course,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
yeah.
Trade 'em in.
Okay,
So
Right.
That affects the warrant.
definitely get the quotes with the trade-ins.
okay, that's fine.
Thank you. All right, so we're good.
I'm going to do it right away, because I'm running out
Yeah.
of time.
But we still need to have a meeting, board members, we still need to have a meeting
We have to have
to finalize
What about next week?
the budget.
When
And
she's done with her
we'll have
paperwork.
that
Oh, yeah, we need the
discussion a little
paperwork.
later. Let's get the
what was
people
that?
out of here.
When will you be done,
I know.
all your numbers?
End of the meeting.
I'm waiting on all you guys to review.
So-
I've got everything.
Oh, so.
read it,
Oh, so we need a review
Yep,
meeting.
all right, and that is item I.
Country
So we'll
Pond.
cover it under there. All right, next item, Country Pond Lake Costa Program.
Why are you not doing the election people so they all? can
Because
hear?
Country Lake Pond is here too.
Well, I know, but there's several people.
Well, if they had kept to the time schedule,
We have lots of several people here. Please,
ahead.
go to the podium.
get up to the podium, Wendy.
Oh, my.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Jennifer West. I'm with Country
Hi,
Pond Lake
Jennifer.
Association. Thanks for hearing us. So we're here to ask to be able to use the boat ramp again for our Lake Coast program. We had the Lake Coast program last year.
This is the survey program, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a just informative, educational program, just giving people a pamphlet, talking about invasive weed species and dangers, also talking about clean, drain, and dry. It's totally voluntary. Nobody is required to let the lake host. Most people really are very open to it, and they like seeing the people at the ramp, and they find it very informative, and they're friendly. So it's really been a great
And
program
this
for
is
us.
just permission, not request for funds?
Correct. Tonight, we're just asking permission. Yes.
Okay. I move to grant the request to continue the program, the Country Pond Lake Coast Program through 2020.
Second.
Into
second.
2020.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, board. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Sorry
that's
to make
why I
you
called
wait.
you up.
Yes, I appreciate it. I knew I'd be quick, right?
All right, our next item, holding elections at the fire rescue station.
Uh-oh, 20 minutes.
Who would like to speak to this topic?
First.
People, please.
Thank you very much. I have a short list of 42 points to go through.
All
Just
right.
kidding.
no.
So this is your idea?
No.
No?
I think there's been a lot of discussion, I think from members of the Board of Selectmen who have the legal responsibility of providing a polling place. And I think it's important to have everyone work through the various ideas. As moderator, my responsibility is to run the election. I do need to ensure that wherever it's happening is going to meet the state requirements. But other than that, the ultimate choice comes from the input from a lot of people. So I think today, the useful thing to do is understand some of the issues that are in front of us. I'm going to touch on just a couple of them, and then I'm going to kind of hand it over to the other people who are involved for their input. And then I'm going to give a quick run through of sort of the pros and cons before I do that. But first off, we have elections here now. That works well. We pretty much can't move that election for the February primary because every online source that tells you where to go vote, of which every party has one, Google has one, the state has one, the federal government has one, and untold other private activist groups have them, they all say here. And there's no way we can update that collection of sources. So it's certainly not going to happen immediately. However, it's worth considering for the future. And we can look at the pros and cons of the various locations. The biggest positive factor we have here is everybody knows about it. It's also very convenient for the people who are involved in the elections, including the selectmen, because they can work while the election's happening. It's very helpful for the clerk's office because there's a ton of stuff that happens during elections that involve what's going on in the clerk's office, and it's right here. And everybody knows where to come, right? The downsides we have here are primarily the size of the facility. It is possible if we get a little bit bigger in population that we won't have enough space to set up booths because we have a state mandated number of booths per number of voters. We're right about that. We're okay right now, but if we get 200 more voters or something, then we may be out. So it's entirely possible that we'll get through this year, but we'll pick up enough new voters in November that come 2021, we're going to have to, think of a new place. So one of the things we need to be doing is getting that process going because it's hard to make that jump instantaneously because we have to inform the voters. Historically, for people who are just not that familiar with all the background, we did use the school at one point. It does have some pretty significant downsides, one of which is it's very disruptive to the school operations, and effectively we really end up shutting the school down for the day, which in a year like this year means multiple times in the course of the year, and that's not really acceptable. Schools also, because of various regulatory situations around them, can create disincentives and difficulties for a certain class of voters. We have voters that carry firearms as part of their work, who may be private security, they may be federal law enforcement agents, and they may be law enforcement agents who are not on active duty in the town of Newton. And under federal law, there's issues about bringing firearms into school property, so that's kind of a problem. And we don't want to be in a situation where people, come home from work at the TSA or at some private security situation and have to go home before they can vote, because that disadvantages a group of people to do that. Plus, we have problems if we have students there. We have issues with disability access. We have to open the main front doors to the school. So now we've got people coming in and out where they wouldn't normally be. So the schools don't really work. So the question is...
School charges too, by the way, for use of the school.
Correct.
Yep.
And it's a significant disruption to the school.
Yep.
So the thought has been advanced, well, why not the firehouse? Because firehouses are good for that kind of thing. There's a large open room where the equipment is. They have access, they're accessible, there's good parking. And so there are some positives to that. The biggest negatives are that we need to use where the trucks are, which means you've got to move the trucks out, and we've got to move them out soon enough to set up for the election, which we pretty much have to do the day before. So we have a period of time where we've kind of taken over the firehouse. And we also have a potential problem that if something does happen,
There's a
then
fire.
we're disrupting the firehouse. Because there's, we've got to reshuffle the operations at the Fire Rescue Center to deal with the fact that now it's full of people. And full of people may mean the parking lot's full and there's people outside, and that's all great because it's a civic activity, but we'd have to be extremely careful to make sure that that doesn't interfere with the activities of the fire department should there be a fire or some event which needs them to be in full bore fire mode. So that's kind of there's some pros and cons. It can't happen immediately, but we might want to investigate it for the future. And I think it might be worth hearing from some of the other people involved about what are the more particular aspects of their part of the process that you'd have to consider before we decide to make a move, if we decide to make a move to another location. So I can field questions, or
I have a question.
hand it over to my colleagues who have probably their own things to say. Yes.
Is the bay adequately heated in the winter?
Well, that's probably the first issue that comes up, correct. And one of the things that can happen is, I think there was some discussion, the chief can probably touch on this more, that probably some trucks are still in there, so they may have to kind of open the doors and start an engine up and drive out in the middle of the election. Obviously, we
But-
have to have a roped-in area, not where the truck is.
Okay, so there'd still be some trucks in there.
I think so, Chief.
I guess we'll find out.
Good evening. Under the fire department's logistics side, when I spoke, Mary Jo on it, we'd have to move some of the fire apparatus
Right.
into the Butler building. In doing so, doesn't sound earth-shattering, some of the police vehicles, which I'm sure the chief has no problem, are gonna have to move, but then the board's gotta make sure that that heating system that works in that Butler building is working for at least 24 hours. Because if the heater shuts down like it has shut down already
No.
this year, but there's really nothing in there other than some fire vehicles, the trailer, some of the, four-wheel vehicles, the pickup truck, et cetera, they can take the cold. It's not a fire apparatus. It's especially not an ambulance that the state regulates what the temperature has to be.
And Butler's not the bay, that's a different building.
No, the Butler is the building,
Okay, just want to make sure.
it's the maintenance yard.
Okay.
Per se. That's one. And as it was brought up, and you brought up, the station is heated. It has heated floors and 2 Modine heaters to keep up with the heat. Once those big garage doors open, it's going to get cold. It's going to take a little bit for it to warm back up. Okay? We can plan on what vehicles go in there, so the doors hopefully won't have to be opened, but they could. So from the fire department side, other than the board, if you want all the trucks out, well, then the board's got to find a place to house 5 pieces of apparatus that need heat, because the election's in March.
There's
If
always
the-
a blizzard.
We can easily move 3 out, not a problem, and squeeze it in to the Butler building. More than 3, if the moderator or the clerk needs more than 3 out, then the board's going to have to find a place to house another. And that's just it. Hopefully, the board approves tonight a need that I came in front of them a year ago for volume control. If not, bring some earplugs, because the speaker out there gets extremely loud.
Okay. And how disruptive is it for you to move it there? Any
It's not
thoughts?
gonna, I'll be honest with you, it's not gonna bother us.
Okay.
It's gonna bother everybody that's voting there. With that radio that's deafening.
Chief, I don't think they understand.
Yeah.
The question was the other question. One of the issues is currently the incoming messages of various sorts are broadcast throughout the facility because, of course, you want everyone to
Oh.
hear what's happening. But we can't really have that happen during the election because when people are trying to vote, there's a
Disrupt.
constant kind of
Noise.
announcements of various things happening,
Right.
which are likely to be disruptive.
Especially waiting in line and
Well, and
everything, yeah.
God forbid, they could be pretty dramatic.
And you can turn them down?
You can shut it off.
You can shut it off, okay. Legally? Okay, just checking.
Yes,
Shut it off.
yes, sir.
I've said this for over a year. To shut it off, you are shutting the entire radio system throughout the entire fire station. The
Oh.
speaker on the apparatus bay, which I brought forward a year ago, is the only speaker in that fire station that does not have a volume control switch.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that the board votes tonight to put that switch in, okay? We've had individuals shove towels in it.
Okay,
Okay,
one
another
sec,
issue.
that we're on the, what we need for election.
I just
That's
wanted to-
maintenance. I just want to stay on
I just wanted to
topic.
answer
It is,
Mr.
we need
Fuchs'
volume
While
control.
the fire chief is still here, I
What does
have a
Mary Jo
question.
think?
Simply because I've been in that building when the doors open. Is it possible for you to remove all the apparatus that could be called out during a 24-hour period?
If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be working here.
I realize that, but the reason I phrased it like that is if we're voting in the building, and you'd mentioned that you could move 3 vehicles out and
Easily.
what have you.
Yep.
You would actually have to move everything out because anything you left in the building would be in the building for the duration of at least 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Correct.
Because the concept of great parking is that you'd be able to park in front of like those doors.
Correct. Again,
And if people are parked there, you can't get an emergency vehicle out.
we can remove the 5 vehicles as long as the Board of Selectmen finds a place to house them.
Okay.
Okay.
Within reason, so the guys are not
Okay,
driving all over
but
town.
you're saying if the board finds a place, how many buildings do we have that have
We have a-
garages
We
large
have an
enough?
extra fire station right now.
Here's the issue. I said this when we discussed that.
It's not heated, right?
I know.
Have a new tanker that will only fit in one bay, and that's in the old fire station. And with all the stuff that's been allowed to store inside the Butler building, she's gonna be a tight fit. To try to wedge her, forgive me, to try to wedge the truck into the Butler building with everything that's stored behind in the back of the Butler building. So the thought has already come up, well, we can put it in the junction station. There's only one that can fit in there if we bend her mirrors back. Unless you're gonna turn the heat on at 35 South Main Street and the electricity, well, you can scratch that out of there. So the only place that's close are those bays at the Butler building. So if the board chooses to do it, we're gonna have to take some measurements. We might have to ask the association, your stuff's out. Some of the furniture, the good furniture, is out. The road agent, your stuff's out to fit more apparatus in there. That's all I'm saying. But I will do whatever the board wishes.
All right, so we've heard from moderator, we've heard from fire chief. I believe our town clerk should be next to speak.
Yes, please.
Okay, you all know how I feel anyway about moving it over there. Sooner or later, we are gonna need a bigger space. Right now, we're here. The whole truck thing, moving the trucks out of the bay, one of the points of moving over there is to have more space. If you don't move out all the trucks, what's the point? You leave 2 trucks in, you probably have this space and a little bit more. Okay, so if you're gonna do it there, move them all out, find somewhere to put them. Again, because if they gotta be taken out, where they're gonna go, you have cars out front, you have people in the building, you have exhaust, you have noise, you have cold. So there's an issue there. My issues, Barbara's issues, the worker issues.
Yeah.
You have to set this building up the night before. So you've got to get pickup trucks, plural, and bodies to move what's behind that
Curtain.
curtain. Probably what's behind that curtain, too. There's a lot of materials that has to move, not just the booths, ballot boxes, ballots, files. I don't know how many books you have.
It's probably 15 books.
15 to 23 ring binders for them, plus all their supplies, plus all my supplies, plus anything else you can possibly think of when we're all set and ready to go and someone comes to me and says, by the way, I need XYZ. And XYZ is sitting back here in this building because somebody didn't bring it. someone's got to come get it. That's my inconvenience for us in the workers. If, like I said, if you were to do this, you have to move it out, you gotta move it all back here, either that night or the next day, so you're actually using that building for about 36 hours, not 24, 36. And again, cost. Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna move it? I'm not. I can't, okay? That's just too much for me. Some of the things cannot be moved until the morning of. Those are the ballots, that's the counting machines, and that's basically all my files. Who's gonna move all that? That's heavy. I'm not. I have people bring them up here for me, because it's heavy stuff. So there's things to be considered in that. It is cost. It is inconvenient. Yes, we need somewhere to vote in the future. We need space. If you don't take the trucks out, what's the point? You're not utilizing the space. Chief also said something about a slippery floor.
Yep.
If it's wet, it's slippery. This is February for primary, March for the town election, November, September. Possibility that that floor is gonna be wet is wet. Liability, you're gonna have to do something with the floor so it's not slippery. Do we bring all these carpets over there? I don't know. Tables, do they have at least 8 to 10 tables that we're gonna need to set up over there? Tables, chairs, everything you see in this room that we use on election, we need to get over there the night before, and then we need to get it back here the day after. Those are the things to consider. And I'm sure there's probably more. I just, yes.
What material, everything that you bring over, and actually I'll ask this for the supervisor of the checklist also. Can you take your stuff over there and leave it overnight?
No, not my stuff.
Okay. So, certain stuff could go over the night before, but the bulk, from what I understand, of what you would need to transport would have to be transported there well before.
6 o'clock in the morning.
I was just gonna say, 6
Okay,
o'clock in the morning.
6 a.m.
Now, most of us have worked full elections, and we know that certain elections, it's not unusual to get done
11
at
o'clock
midnight.
at night. Okay,
So it's a case of whenever you finally get done, and maybe Ms. White can fill us in for the supervisor of the checklist. A lot of that stuff that
gotta
can't
come
be
back.
left there unsecured
It's got to come back.
has to come back the same night, which could mean 11 o'clock, is when you start packing it up.
Sometimes,
What if you had a place to lock it over there?
nope. Nope.
Doesn't count? So there's a law that says it has to be in this building?
No, let me throw more into that. Theoretically, you can get a secure enough location to lock things up over there,
Yeah.
but,
We don't have it.
do we have one? Probably not. You gotta go buy some special cabinet or, it has to.
We have locks over there, right?
I mean, more important,
Fire.
when is,
Your office is locked, right? I mean, all I'm saying is, we need to be careful of dismissing things immediately, because there are ways to solve the problem.
To answer your question that quickly,
Yeah.
every
The
office,
microphone.
okay, every office is locked,
Yeah.
okay? There are, like my office, there's probably half a dozen individuals that have the combination to my office. If they need security that only they have the numbers, then we're gonna be changing. Just
Yeah,
like-
right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Because my office, stuff
Right.
like that, the most secure
Right,
is Larry's office, because Larry's
Yeah.
office is the key.
yeah,
I don't want to say, forgive me, the EOC
Yeah.
is a key,
Yeah.
but you just move the sliders.
right.
okay. Can I just go back? At what point is our population, how many more people have to move into the town before we must move the polling place?
I think you said 200.
200 only?
It's basically how many voters you have.
Okay, so we're,
Okay, right now, we have 3,100 voters.
Right.
Which means we need each election has different requirements for how many booths you have. The
Okay.
presidential primary is one of the biggest ones. We need, I believe, 26, maybe 28 places for these people, and it could be more. I really have to look. And depending on the election, you might need more, you might need less. The Secretary of State has it laid out how many you need per voters. So if you get another 200 voters,
Right.
then yeah, we would need more booths, more space.
So it wouldn't be.
It's voters, it's not population, it's voters, but for as many voters come on, as many voters go off. We
Right.
purge all the time, we just took off 600 voters,
Wow.
okay? So,
So I'm hearing, so I know, that we don't know when we're going to need a bigger space. And,
Can I jump in?
yeah, because I don't
What you're
hear any
doing
advantage.
with your
right now.
microphone
Yeah.
is kind of,
Oh, really?
Sure.
Usually you can never hear me.
right, it's tin canish, you might not
Okay.
you're
wanna-
all kind of tin canish, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, I'm hearing no advantage in moving yet, until we have to.
Capacity
please.
requirement, it is not very tightly applicable for town elections. In theory, the state law sort of applies, but
Okay.
we have much more, leeway there. For the state elections, and in particular presidential primaries, we have to meet the state mandate, which I believe is one booth, and the tabletop things count as booths,
Okay.
for every 120 registered voters. So that puts us at about, I think it's 26 is the number now, which we're okay with. And in theory, we could set up more booths. But we try not to, in that we try to maintain, more open area for people to move between the booths, and we try to make sure there's a good sight line for people who public, although technically we could put, more booths up.
okay.
There are some limitations. We need to have a 4-foot distance from the rope line to the booth. If anyone's voted here a lot, you notice we're awful close on some of the corners and stuff. We're like to the inch, but we're okay. But if we gotta, if we come up a couple more clicks in voters or booths, as it were, then we have an issue. We do have a large booth that we use for people with disabilities. That takes up a lot of space, but we have to have that. That's a requirement by law. So it's kind of a how many can you pack in here, but we have to still, practically speak, make sure we have a good flow between the booths. Works pretty good right now. If you've seen people, efficiently, they get their ballot and they go to a booth. And we probably can put a few more stand-up booths in. We might have to buy them, but at some point, if we just keep adding people, we'll run out of space here. 'Cause if we pack enough booths in, it'll be like a maze, and we don't want that.
Can we put them in the planning board office?
No.
Too bad.
Madam Chair.
All right, Supervisor of the checklist, you have something to say?
Yeah, I agree that I don't think it's a good idea to move because we have so many things that need to be secured and they can't be secured over there. And to get it takes about an hour and a half to an hour to an hour and a half to get everything set up here for us to do our job as supervisors. Well, then you have to factor in how much longer is it going to take to come over here, get all that stuff packed into a vehicle, bring it over there and set it up in a new place. And then you have to bring it all back here because it can't be unsecured. And we are responsible for that. That is people's records, that is people's social security numbers, birth dates, everything. So we are responsible for that, and we need to make sure it gets back here and locked up, which means whenever the election's over, and sometimes we're here counting until 9:30, town clerks are here most of the time until maybe 11:30 or 12 before they finish with their stuff, and then they would have to move everything over.
2 o'clock in the
So
morning.
you're talking about a good portion of time before and after also.
I'm just thinking of the one election, I was here till 1 AM.
Yeah.
That was the presidential primary, right?
Right?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be crazy.
But I mean, I'd go back, I'd go back, and I understand what you're saying, but it's not that it cannot be secured over there. We do have,
We'd have to do it.
we'd have to do it.
I understand that if you have to secure, you have to secure it. Ultimately, I'm responsible for those
Right.
things. Where do I want them? I want them locked up back in my office where I feel that it is secure. Because like you said, everybody's got codes to everybody's office.
what we're at now, yeah.
Okay, just something, another, like,
Yeah.
just something to consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What, you have a question you've been trying to
Oh,
ask?
I'm just trying to think of, playing,
Devil's
So-
advocate?
No, playing Solomon
Oh.
and trying to split things down the middle. One of the things that I've noticed, and this is maybe someplace where the Butler Building could come in very handy. You look around the room and there are a lot of chairs that have accumulated here that are used for various boards and what have you. However, we have racks of chairs over there that occupy space that we don't need other than once a year for the town deliberative session. It might be time for them to go to the Butler Building.
Those can go away.
Right.
I've been asking for years for these
Well,
to go away. Now that you have these, you have plenty for deliberative session. You can take half of them away and still have plenty for
Right.
deliberative session.
I would like to see those disappear, some of the other stray furnishings disappear from the room. And we may have to look at organizations and say, you're only allowed this much space to set up a bake sale or raffle or what have you.
That's got a question.
Just going along those lines, even if, it seems like it would be a lot easier simply to store them the day of the election if we can't decide to get rid of them, rather than moving you there. And just, sadly, I was once a New Yorker, and I tell you, the voting here, you're like, oh, we don't have enough room. You can do a lot in a small space if you plan it right. You may not be able to do the bake sale here, you may have to put it, I don't know where you'd put it.
Downstairs.
Yeah, downstairs. So I mean, this is
It's
just,
workable. This place is workable,
we
and I
can
understand
work
that space needs in the future. Yeah.
exactly.
Like Robert Dismalik said, this coming election, presidential primary, absolutely not.
I think,
Absolutely not, because we're gonna be having a state election people watching us. And we need a run-through. I need measurements of that building. We just need to know what's over there to use, if we were to do this at some point.
yeah, it sounds like there's more brainstorming and there's more time needed.
plenty of
Because there are
time.
things we may not have thought of yet, but I can't, does anyone hear any reason to move it anytime soon unless we have to? I'm just curious.
All right, well, actually,
My motion would be to
before
keep
we
it
even go
with more
there,
thought.
there's one member of our audience we haven't heard from
Oh,
yet,
who, where?
who does play a part. So,
You're right here.
basically, you do play a role in the elections in that you provide traffic control, you provide security, if you will, during the
See
day.
that working out over there.
Are there any pros or cons or, any hurdles that you could see occurring if this move was to occur?
Police department makes it really simple. We'll adapt to whatever we need to. So wherever it is where it is. I don't have any issue with any location.
Okay,
Thank you.
Simple.
thank you.
I do just want to add one thing. I think that if and when the board decides that they might move elections over there on a regular basis, I think you could have a real issue with if there are still fire trucks in there and they have to be moved out in case of an emergency at the same time as an election is going on. I don't know how the powers that be up in Concord are going to like that kind of disruption during an election.
It's, so the only thing I would say, and to me, it sounds like we're just going to maintain status quo. I don't see this happening anytime soon. But something we need to consider, and I realize we're talking to the people who actually have to do the work, are in this room, right? And some others who aren't here. But if you talk about pros and cons, the pros for the residents are, that's a long list of pros and really not too many cons. We have to consider that. The second thing is, unless we expand this building, all the cons I've just heard would be the same, not all the cons, most of the cons I've just heard would be the same if we voted anywhere else. So, I mean, we are what we are. We have the space we have the buildings we have in this town. You know, we talked about the school. We'd have to move all this stuff to the school too. We'd have to secure all this stuff at the school too. So to me, the school and the fire station are really similar arguments. The school has, as the moderator talked about, certain restrictions, but I mean, I think it was worth the conversation. It sounds like the cons for the folks who are here far outweigh everything. But we have to figure out, and maybe I won't even be here in a year, but we have to figure out something to do in the future. And it seems to me, to do something different in the future, we will need to move everything the night before, or the day after, or secure it and stuff. So that will always be a consideration, but,
If we need to.
or we stay here.
Yeah, but I think as part of that, we would actually also need to address all of the concerns that were made. So if we were to hold future elections, not the current ones, obviously, but if we were to decide that we recognize this is going to get too small, we need to move to a larger space. The apparatus bay is a larger space. However, we would then need to determine where the apparatus is going to go. So get that lined up. We would need to have some kind of a storage, locked storage, compartments, office, closets, whatever, where the town clerks and the supervisor of the checklist, their data can be stored safely and securely under their lock and key. Even though it's not this building, it would still be under your lock and key.
Yeah,
That would be one of the things we would need to have.
And we would need to budget for moving expenses.
Just
Correct.
to be specific about what can stay somewhere and what has to leave. You can move, store booths, store tables, store little things, whatever. But the supervisor's files, my files, ballots, and certain items cannot stay there under lock and key, maybe for more than one night. Barbara's records must be accessible to me any day of the week. So I'm not gonna get up, go drive to the fire station, unlock to pull out records and stuff. Those files must stay
Right, no,
here.
when I was
So,
saying having
yeah,
the
under
lock and
locking-
key,
but I mean, why
I meant
would-
to have it
yeah.
brought there.
And so I just wanted to explain what could stay, what can't stay.
Yeah.
Ideally, to have the booths out of here and somewhere where we're gonna vote all the time, that'd be awesome. The majority of my stuff cannot.
Yep. So
Not
the
even,
logistics planning would have to be done. You know, where would things go?
Right.
What would be permanently stored there? What would be brought in? What would the costs be to have the manpower to collect it?
And get the
And get them
manpower
in
and,
there?
you know.
Yes, exactly. Plus, you would have to be in possession of the materials when it goes over, I would imagine, you know, because that's the lock and key. You couldn't just say, hey, John, here's the boxes, and take them with you.
Yeah, I
So
mean, if
there's a lot
if-
to work out, that's why, you know.
If we were to decide to do it too, I said this a couple meetings ago, other towns do this.
No, I know, we
So
used
they
to
would-
do it.
Right,
Used to
so
do
they would have some sort of a template, or, you know, it takes us so many man-hours to do whatever. So we might be able to borrow that data, you know, because budgets have to change, right? Because if you're paying for additional people to
Yep.
charge that number.
My main concern is the emergency vehicles. They can't be outside.
And they
We've
can't
had-
be inside.
We've had too many blizzards, okay, on elections. We can't have the cruisers parked out there so that they have to clear them off to go respond to an emergency. We can't have our fire apparatus stored out there so that they have to clean them off to respond to an emergency. Those things we can't do, or even because they must be stored under a certain temperatures. We will need to look into heat for the Butler building if that's the place where the apparatus will be stored. I also agree that all apparatus would have to come out of the bay, because we can't have those doors being opened during election. From 8 AM to 8 PM, those apparatus bay doors should not be getting opened. So that would mean they would all have to come out.
Okay.
So there's a lot of logistics. I don't know who's going to take on the research in, yeah.
I mean,
I would, you know, with, and I'm kind of speaking for myself, and we're not going to talk about this again until we need to.
Good.
Is what is the fact of the matter. That's the way it works. We don't have the manpower to
Good.
research this for the next few years.
Let's move on.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
It's
No, but Larry,
conceivable we may never
you have a
need to
comment?
move.
Larry, can I finish
This
mine?
is a finite-sized town.
Put that up.
What?
It's
So
loud,
can I,
They can't hear you.
I just,
What do you mean?
I promise I need
like it.
60 more seconds and I'm done. But
of this.
we're all going to be in here on voting day, and we have 4 of them this year. So we all just need to have the same message to people. When if we have a blizzard and they can't find parking, or they don't vote at all because they're afraid to come out, we all need to be of the same message. We got together, we considered it, we looked into it. It doesn't make sense to do it right now. There's too many cons doing it. So, here we are.
Do we need a motion or we're good?
Try.
Okay,
Okay, I
so
have to
that
take
has
a
been
bathroom.
discussed quite extensively. We are now moving on to quotes to digitize towns' tax maps.
We put this on because we didn't do anything with it before the year end. As you know, they've given us 2 budgeting seasons to try and make this work. So I was looking to see if the board would be in favor of using the municipal aid that we received. We did go out to bid. We have 2 bids. One I think is better than the other, but I wanted to see what the board thinks, because I do tentatively have it on the warrant articles right now. But if you're not in favor of it, I'll take it off. But I'm just afraid if we hold off and we don't get it to pass next year, we've got nobody to do the maps.
Right.
So I'm just
And we
looking-
do need to go to the level of digitizing
Right,
the maps.
because we're just paper right now, and they won't touch them after 2 budget seasons.
It's just like computers. Eventually, everyone had to go to computers. We have to go to digitization. So, or like microfiche. Eventually, everyone had to get off of microfiche. We're at that point.
I'm just trying to be proactive, but it's up to you, whatever you want to do.
I am not seeing those, Nancy.
The bids?
Yeah,
I didn't put the bids out there, I'm sorry.
Okay.
One is a book. I brought the book with me. I can't possibly, I mean, I could copy a couple of sheets, but, and the other one was a much smaller version.
what were the dollar amounts?
We didn't announce that at the last time, so I don't know if you want to now or not.
Can do the dollars and not the,
Yeah, just tell me what the $2 amounts are, not which dollar.
One was,
thank you, guys.
Thank you. One was?
I think 31 to 34, because there was some options in there.
100?
31,000. And the other one, I believe, was around, do you remember what it was? No, I only brought this one up. It was like 12,000 or something.
That's a big difference.
Wow, yeah.
And
That's better.
it doesn't have all the info that this one does, so, you know, I'm just hypothetically asking the board if you want to put it on the warrant. I mean, I don't know how long the bids are good for. They may not even be good anymore because it's been a couple of weeks. I don't know.
Usually bids are good for a little longer than a couple of
Well, it
weeks, but we
depends.
can
But
ask them.
We're talking much.
Yeah.
And I don't want to call anybody back and say, well, we got to see if we can get funding first.
How much would that cut into the mutual aid?
I believe the mutual aid was 48,000.
Yeah,
And there
48.
is another check this year coming in for 48,000. But we wouldn't be able to spend, well, we can't spend either unless we take it from the fund balance.
I would like to see it on the warrant.
Yes, so would I.
We need
But
it.
that has to get done this year?
We have 2 budget seasons, so if we do it this year and it doesn't pass, we've got 1 more year to try and sell it. And if we can't sell it next year, we're in trouble, because state law says we have to have updated.
So if the state law says you have to do it,
Yep.
Yep.
and if the warrant article fails, then you can't do it.
We can't do it this year, but there is funding that we could do it.
That's what I'm saying, so why don't we just do it?
I mean, if it's coming from the fund balance, I don't think the people will vote no on it, because it's.
Right, and that's why we're going to put, the first step, put it on the warrant articles.
It's
We have 2 budget seasons, put it on the warrant.
It's on, I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure that you were in favor of it.
All right, then we're good with that.
That money is ours to keep, however, if we don't spend it through the warrant article, it goes into our unexpended fund.
It's already in the fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the check we
And you
got?
can't spend it unless you do.
That's the check we got, yeah.
Oh, good.
All right,
Okay.
we have,
I'm sorry, but just real quick, so it's on the warrant, but is it on the warrant to take it from the fund
Yes,
balance?
yes.
Okay, so it's a zero.
Yes.
be as a-
Tax
zero increase, yep.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
All right, now, are you 2 here for the
Yeah.
building repairs and
Yes. Yep.
maintenance?
Yes, and I have a question for the following one.
You stand up, please.
Microphone.
All right, and the other chief, are you here for the same thing, or are you
For
here for
fun.
something else? Oh, well, I was
A
going
good
to say,
friend.
if you were leaving, then I just wanted to make one announcement while you were here. Are,
We set fire rescue station on here.
okay. Say that again?
We have the police station and the fire rescue station under repairs and maintenance.
Right, I realize that, and that's why I was asking if he was here for that, and he said no. So, building repairs and maintenance is our next item. Go ahead.
Good evening. The board said about 2 hours ago, first come, first served, so I guess I'm first at the podium. I sent Diane a breakdown of what we really, truly could use at the fire station. One is that volume control that we talked about, and the other is the remaining keypads. What's happening is, especially going out the back door, the members go out the back door, the shovel during the snowstorm, they can't get back in. They gotta walk all around the station, or they leave the door propped open. On top of that, the wires, as the board knows, it's a steel building. Those wires have been hanging out of those holes for almost 18 months now, with the wind, just letting them sway back and forth, getting chafed up. We're back to the same thing. Either put the keypads on, or just might as well just cut the wires and shove them into the holes, because you're gonna be replacing the wires anyways. The rest of the punch list that I brought to the selectmen last year to finish the fire station, that was never part of the 1.7, Mr. Pierce already brought up, which was the signage.
Fierce.
Mr. Pierce, thank you. Already brought up the signage.
I've already done a warrant article
yeah.
for some of that stuff.
And the other stuff, but we'll table it. This is what needs to get done. This is the small stuff. We'll come and visit the board at another time for the rest of the exhaust system and to finish the floor.
How much actually does that controller cost for the speaker?
It was $300 and something.
And you can't take that out of your budget?
In the 2019 budget, if you remember, Mr. Foote, when I came in front of the board, I lost my 2018 budget for that fire station. And the board voted unanimous that they would not take any funds out of the 2019 fire department budget for anything for that fire station. I will tell you, for 2020, I just bought the curtains because we're not gonna wait for blinds, we're not gonna wait for nothing else. The switch needs to get put on. I'm going on what the board said they were gonna do. If the board doesn't do it, I will take it out of my budget.
I'll look at my budget and see if I can take care of that for you
Thank you.
in 2020.
But I still need the keypads. We still need the keypads.
It's on the
Which is
list.
like $3,600.
That I'm not paying for.
359.
Those are some of the things that you need to review to decide what's priority and what isn't.
And it's, again, it's just like the floor. You either pay it now, or you're gonna pay more after, once those wires get chafed. We already lost, for the board, the front lobby keypad twice. They believe there's a short in there. I'm not an electrician, I'm not a door guy. I have no idea if the wire's already chafed on those other 3 live wires that are hanging, blowing in the breeze, that's shorting out the system. But if you go into the vestibule now, you will see the keypad removed because it's burnt out. This is the second one that's being replaced. Warranty's going to end. The only reason that one's being replaced again on the warranty is because the first one burnt out within warranty. There is no more warranty on that building from those contractors, with the exception of the security team and the TV, security cameras.
What is a street entrance sign?
That was tabled. Mr. Pierce took care of that.
Mr. Beers.
Mr. Pierce, I'll just say Chet.
Okay, then it needs to come off this list, because it's, I mean, $25,000.
The amended list was only 2.
I put that on the warrant article, and this is something you need
Right.
to look at, because that's the quote we
So
have.
the
have
two
like
are
20 warrant
speaker
articles?
volume?
Which Mr. Foote just said he would take care of, the $300 and something dollar
Speaker
one.
volume and the 3-door keypads, correct?
Correct.
Which
So
is the $35.90.
Okay.
You can scratch the volume.
So no electrical outlets for the second floor.
Not yet.
That's a
All I'm
future
asking
need,
for
right?
is 2. We'll run the
1 and
extension
2.
cords like we've been running.
Okay.
It is what it is.
So all you need is the additional 3,590.
Well, there's a lot of stuff we need, but, right,
For now.
we need that.
This is all he's asking for today.
Priority 1 is the $35.90?
Yes.
Yes.
Obviously, the police chief's the same way. If we gave him everything he needed, that'd be a long list. But it's prioritized, this is what you're telling us, $35.90.
Correct, and same thing with the street sign. That's why the street sign came out of the fire department's budget. We took the old one, had it customized, threw it up. That's not the sign that was originally designed with the plans for the station.
Okay, so are we making a motion? Are we?
Actually, I believe it's something that when we need to keep all this stuff in mind
Yeah.
when we meet and actually
Plan out the
Budget.
final
end the
budget?
budget.
I
All right.
agree.
So we now know that's what you want for your 2020 building maintenance top priority, right? Are you?
Yes.
And is that the only thing that you're looking for out
Well,
of
the
the
whole list.
2020? Or the whole thing
The
for
whole list, if
2020?
it's possible, but it's not gonna be possible. I'm a realistic.
Okay,
You guys don't have $50,000 sitting in the back pocket.
no. And we have a hard time getting less than that from the taxpayers.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And Chief, you have anything?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
The keypads are under warranty now, right? They're still under warranty, your keypads?
This one, it is under warranty, but when they come back, they're gonna check. If, the way it was explained to me, if the short is coming from one of those wires that are hanging out,
You void your warranty.
you void the warranty, we own it.
Oh, so you can't find that out ahead of time?
No, not until he comes.
Because
He had to order that keypad
My
special.
concern is them leaving the doors open so that they can get back into the building. It'd be worth paying the money to have them, get them fixed, but if we're not guaranteed of a warranty either,
Well-
then it's gonna cost more.
My recommendation would be, it needs to get done. What you've lost in heat in the past year.
I know,
one thing.
and we were over budget, and that's what I'm trying to avoid this year.
But we can hold off for a couple weeks, right?
Absolutely.
We're not gonna,
When does the warranty run out?
When he comes back with a keypad and installs it, if he comes tomorrow and installs it and checks the system and finds out that it's our negligence,
Yeah.
I don't say our, the town's negligence,
Yeah.
your warranty's
Okay,
out the door. We're having the same thing too with the security cameras,
okay.
not the monitors. They've replaced some of those monitors 3 or 4 times.
Well,
Have them come tomorrow then.
Yeah,
But like this stuff, and I know the chief, the other chief's trying to get a quote, right, for what you need. So we could add that to
The
the,
major need,
Yeah.
we've got 2 quotes.
yeah,
The board requires 3.
yeah. I mean,
when possible,
when
yes.
possible.
Sometimes we recognize, especially when it comes to the area of specialized equipment, it's not possible.
Yeah, I've reached out to several companies. I can reach out to more. A lot of them are union, and they don't want to come out because we're not a union shop ourselves, so they don't want to do any work for the town because we're not
We
union-based.
don't pay enough.
I would give it maybe another week, and then what you have is what you have, and we get it into Nancy, and then at our next meeting, whenever that may be, we can
I actually
finally.
reached out to Jeff Murphy and asked him for a couple recommendations to different companies, so
Cool.
he'll get me that in the next day or 2.
Okay,
We'll
excellent.
send that back out. But you guys have my list of
Yeah.
Yep,
stuff
they're
that's there,
looking
so.
at it. Yep.
Look at it, let me know what you want to do, and we'll go from there.
What are your priorities on the list? If you had some?
I haven't seen that list since I wrote it.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I'm assuming you did
There's
it
the safety
prioritized.
system, security, cosmetic.
What they have here is priority.
The fire
The
department's a
way
little
it's
more
written is
important.
prioritized.
Oh, so safety, okay, just want to make sure.
That's basically it.
Thank you.
The first one is number 1.
Thinking.
Madam Chair, you said you had some type of announcement that I stayed away from here.
I
What is
do,
it?
I do. I just think this is important.
But I think it's the fire chief, not the police chief.
No, I'm pretty sure it's police.
Oh, it is all of them? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Let's
'Cause
hear
I
it.
didn't see that, I missed that, I thought it was the police.
all right. I have it. It is from the State of New Hampshire Department of Safety.
That's actually,
Is it
Aw.
just him or both of you?
No, that is the fire department along with the EOC.
Okay. You, well, it says each primary discipline, fire, EMS, and police department.
yeah, we have,
You don't have the same radios?
Okay,
ours is taken
that's
care
what I
of.
believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't
Regardless,
read either of
this
it.
is just to say that we have successfully completed the survey and MOA process for the radio reprogramming grant reimbursement initiative. So there is,
Round of applause.
yes, so the grant,
Just a
What-
little note on that, the thanks should go to Mr. Foote, the emergency director. He's the one that spearheaded that grant. I'd
Golf
love to
clap.
take the credit since we did all the
Thanks,
serial
Larry.
numbers and all the radios, but it was Mr. Foote that spearheaded that grant.
So, Lisa, I don't know if you have to sign it first before they take it to the vendor or not.
It's already signed.
No, she doesn't?
no, I signed the grant. This was
Okay.
just an announcement, and then there's a form for them to have the vendor fill out that actually does the reprogramming. And this also is essentially a first come, first serve. When the money runs out, it runs out.
Yeah, so you better
We'll have to
hurry.
get together and call
So,
her.
yeah, and it will be any and all of the radios that are
And who you
listed.
want to use.
Yep. So I just wanted to say congratulations. We did complete it, and we were awarded the grant, so it's here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll call you.
All right, let's see. Renewal agreement with Coco Realty, Chief?
That could
Good. The only thing I have on that, Captain Zelinski made a good point, and I'm not sure if he spoke to Diane. The agreement to sell the old fire station, the fire pond, that takes care of this area, is that being sold with the fire station? Is there going to be, whatever the town calls it,
An
an
easement?
Easement.
with it? Because if we lose that, again, that is the center watering hole. Mr. Zelinski asked me today, I told him to come and see Diane. He was waiting to bring it up, so I'm bringing it up to the board.
That could be part of the sale agreement that we have access to it, right?
I always thought the hen house was the central watering hole.
Well, yeah, but
The,
not
real
no more. 'cause
And
the-
Yeah, I
yes,
mean-
that was one of my concerns as well, because it's not just the watering hole itself, but the access to the watering hole.
right. But
And-
that's a good point. We need to make sure that's clear.
I don't think it's in the,
I don't think it is either.
No,
Yeah.
so that's,
this is the first time I heard about it.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
So
But we can put it in there?
yeah, now that
Yeah.
we're renewing.
now that we know,
Behind the station, right?
Yeah, the road is, when you're looking at the fire station, the road is to the north, technically to the right. It's actually
The peanut trail?
the
trail?
peanut trail.
So you could access it
going
through the
in.
peanut trail thing to get to it?
I think
You
it's
have
to the
to-
left of it. right?
Correct. Correct.
we're going to send Diane down there to take pictures tomorrow and make sure we
Yeah.
have,
Just to let you and Mr. Zelinski know that Suburban is going to take care of that generator at the old station.
Yeah, they come-
Station 2,
They come tomorrow.
correct, okay.
All right, so in
Good to know.
easement requirement for the sale of the property is something we want to make sure we put in there, if we ever get that far.
right.
Yeah.
The good, I mean, just to cut to the chase, I would move to sign a new agreement with Coco Realty, because it's not going to cost us anything to do that. We're just in agreement. And 2020 should look a little better. Tell everybody you know to vote for the rezoning.
I was just gonna say, the planning board is putting forth,
I saw that on the,
Yep, I saw that as well.
so rezoned, it ought to look a little better for the sale, and we can make sure there's an easement included, but
Good.
I'll
that was
second
a, that was a clumsy motion, but I'd move,
Your
All
motion
right.
to have the chairwoman sign
yep,
the renewal contract for
Right.
With
Coco
Coco Realty.
Realty?
With
I
an
was very
easement.
Jim
eloquent.
seconded,
Yes,
okay, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Exactly.
Good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And next item is the mileage reimbursement rate.
Madam Chair, I'll move that we adopt the 57.5
Yep.
cents per mile as the new mileage rate.
Second.
All right, I am going to go on the record that
It's less.
this is the reason why I said last year, we don't need to be jumping on the bandwagon just because the state changes the mileage. We don't need to increase ours the same. This year, the state has decreased the mileage rate,
The feds.
0.5 cents.
Federal government.
Yeah, federal mileage reimbursement. It is not a requirement. Yes, it's nice to give a sufficient reimbursement, but I still don't think we need to be jumping on board. And I'm not so sure we want to do a 0.5 change. How, whether,
We've done it before, it calculates okay.
okay. But then again, if the federal government changes it next year, are we going to change our
We
mileage?
do every year.
And I'm still not in favor of it.
Do you want to leave it at 58 cents?
I don't care, and probably will go back up to 58 cents next year.
So I'd like to propose this, due to the lateness of the hour, maybe we can just pretend this was never on the agenda and we can just leave it the way it is and move on.
I mean, it's not a big deal to just go with what the state recommends.
Yeah, why don't,
No,
It's gonna save
but it
the
is, it
taxpayers
is
a
a,
little bit.
it is a
Okay,
motion on the table that has been seconded. I had to say my piece. Does anybody else have any comments, concerns,
No, I'd
questions?
like to echo what it saves the taxpayers, right?
okay,
In this particular case, it does.
Yeah.
I
Just to leave
agree.
it.
We're fine with it.
okay.
All right, it was just
Yep.
going up last year to come down this
Every
year.
little
Goes
bit
up
helps.
to 60 cents next year, I expect you to vote for it.
No, I won't. However, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That unanimous.
Because it is a decrease.
Could you please vote nay just because of that whole conversation? It
Next year, if it goes up to
feels-
60 cents, it will be a nay.
doesn't feel right that you were a yay and
No, I had to explain that that was my whole reason for not voting for it last year. Because look, it just went down a half a cent.
But you did good for the residents.
All right, so, next item is
Aye.
the schedule. We need to schedule a meeting for the review of the operating budget before. Good night, Chief, thank you for, I'm
Yeah.
surprised you lasted as long as you did.
This could take hours.
All right, so we need to pick a night where the majority can meet to kind of
14th.
finalize our numbers.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday is the planning board.
I know, but I'm free that night.
The administrative assistant is not, the planning board liaison is not.
And the problem, I'm just reminding you, our meeting is on the Monday, right? The 20th is a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You want calculations on tax impacts. I can't do any of that until you guys vote on what you want.
When's the next
What
meeting?
about
The
Wednesday?
20th? Our next
Is
meeting's the
anybody available
20th?
tomorrow night?
Public hearing.
Yeah, why did we move it? Oh, we don't have one the
I mean,
21st, though.
I'm not.
Public hearings on a Monday?
Yeah,
The public hearing and the
Six.
selectmen's meeting is that same night.
January 20th, yes,
which is Martin Luther King Day.
correct.
Oh, got that in my calendar.
That's a quote-unquote floating
What about the
holiday.
15th?
That's not a,
Not for us.
Really?
We've
Wow.
never
Can we meet the 15th of next week, next Wednesday?
Could I suggest we just start picking off dates starting with tomorrow night?
What are we meeting for? The operating
We're
budget?
meeting to finalize the budget.
I'm good
Operating
with
budget.
Don't we need a little
Thursday
time?
Like 2
or even
hours?
Friday.
so wait,
I'm just throwing these things out there, okay?
but wait a minute.
Wait,
So
What day?
in order to give Nancy enough time to have something for us to vote on, what's, like legitimately, when could you be ready?
Well, Kim and I and Diane are going to be looking at the budget and the default tomorrow. But it's going to be a board decision because the budget is higher than the default. So you're going to have to decide how you want to handle that. So we want to look at it again and make sure everything's copacetic. But you've got the warrant articles. I'm not looking to add any others. Maybe the wording could be changed or the dollar amounts could be changed. And you could, give me your input, or we can write it all down for the next meeting, mark it up, and when you come in, you'll be ready.
So based on that, I don't think this week would work. It sounds like you need a couple of days.
What about the
Warrant
the
articles will work
15th,
this week.
Well, the
Wednesday?
warrant articles are,
Then I'll move that we
Different.
meet next Monday night.
I have a meeting. I can do Wednesday next week, or Tuesday.
All right, next,
I'm open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week.
I'm Tuesday, Wednesday.
yeah, so next Monday is the 13th.
Right.
I can do the 13th.
I cannot. I have a prior meeting with another committee.
We need
Alright.
3 board members.
Yeah, so I can, Jim can,
maybe.
Matt's a maybe, Larry?
So the 15th is a no. No one can do the 15th, the date I can do, right?
Maybe.
The 15th, the planning board, or the 14th?
The 14th is planning.
14th is the planning board.
This planning board.
Tuesday.
So the
'Cause your
14th
text-
is off.
Your text told me the 15th.
15th is
Oh, it's
doable.
changed?
The 15th is doable for me.
Let's,
Me too.
You said
I'll have to
15th's good?
check, but I could be.
Okay.
We can do the 15th.
You're good for the
He's
15th?
good for the 15th.
Larry's good for the 15th? So it's sounding like we've got a majority and potentially a full board for the 15th.
Yeah.
What
So
time would we meet,
The
6 or 7?
15th it is. Now, do we want to start at 6?
Yep.
Or have a start at 6 and knock them both out, warrant articles and budget.
Yeah.
Great.
Get out of here.
Yep,
Might go
everyone
in
good?
2
with-
hours.
I just wanted to make sure, because we could start at 6, we could start at 6:30,
Six.
because it is off schedule.
And we can
So-
review all the warrant
Six-
articles before the
6
meeting.
is good for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the warrant
So-
is
so-
good
so-
for you.
six-
Kate?
I
I
read
already
them.
We have to
went through
start
them a
as
couple
early as
times.
possible.
Yep, Kate, 6
Yep.
is go.
So there,
Okay,
it's a
then.
go.
We
Can
will
I-
set our
go-
meeting for January 15th, 6 PM,
As a workshop or
and not a non-public.
as a workshop or
It's
downstairs?
still it will be a
Downstairs?
public meeting, not taped.
Okay,
It
that
is
was the
a,
question.
it is a
Downstairs?
work
Yeah.
meeting, so it will be public,
With the door open.
but it will be in the selectman's office.
And have pizza there for us.
Because we do not anticipate the attendance
Out of
at the
the-
work meeting.
Out of the emergency budget.
I believe she's going to be available.
And it'll make it very
We
convenient.
need her there.
Yeah,
Can
That's
I
fine.
just make a suggestion? I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it was last year. You and Kim, and probably Diane too, had the 3 options. As I get older in life, I like less options
For the budget?
for the budget. So if you kind of presented
Well,
what you calculated in like 3 different versions, that might help us arrive at a decision quicker.
to try and
Okay.
make it so that
Right.
you think it'll get voted.
Right, right.
Will we go?
Because
Go ahead.
as we know, as we know, a default here.
Get the 14th and they
And
get the 15th
you know what I mean?
in.
We can go,
Right
these
now, the
meetings.
default is here and the budget is here. And you guys gotta somehow bring that a little bit I know we need,
If possible.
I
There's no
know
saying that
need
we
it,
can.
but you
Just
gotta
read
keep
about
in mind-
all this money we need.
You gotta keep in mind, if they vote down the budget,
And we
all of
gotta
this is
try
out
to,
the window.
and we gotta try to sell them on it too.
Exactly, I agree.
But then all this other stuff that we were just hit with tonight is not
Yes.
in,
Right.
default
Exactly,
budget.
and that's what I'm saying.
so you
And we-
kind of,
And even if it is in the general government buildings, doesn't mean your budget's gonna pass. That's what my fear is.
And we haven't gone over Marshall or Gale
but to
tonight
me,
either.
the proposals are.
That's a lot.
There's the proposed above the default. There's a proposed that you can get down to the default. And there's a proposed you can get lower than the default. Somewhere in there, we can find the answer, but if we had it kind of broken up that way, that might help us get to the point
it
quicker.
sounds like
I mean,
we're
we
not going to
can-
move forward
We can do
if
what we
we...
think, but I know you're more on helping the safety people, the police, fire, and road.
Mhm.
They've all gone up, and there's
Right.
nothing
They're
to cut.
If it was me voting by myself, I would be voting to keep them where they were proposed, and whatever the difference is, I'd give
get that.
everybody the
I
same.
get that, but the others, the small budgets, you're not gonna get that to equal out. You're just not.
It's percentages, that's all it is.
And even road agent was talking about, additional cost for stump grinding, which
Right.
isn't even in his budget,
Right.
you know?
We have a lot of needs.
So, and we can
residents need to hear it.
discuss that, yeah, we can discuss that on Wednesday, and whatever budget we feel is necessary is the one we will go for, is the
Right.
one we will propose.
And just-
And we just have to sell it to
And
the
just
taxpayers.
Keep in mind, the petitioned articles are open till the 14th.
Yep,
So there may be more petitions, but they're out of your hands anyway.
yep. All right, so that takes care of the I. Other business.
Do we have any?
Start doing them.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, I would like to announce that the board signed the vendor manifest dated December 30th, 2019, in the amount of $6,694.69.
Second?
Further, to announce that the board signed the payroll manifest for pay period December 8th through the 21st, 2019, with a pay date of December 26th, 2019. Further, that we,
Not a further. Now this is a,
Moved it.
I move to sign the vendor manifest dated January 7th, 2020, in the amount of $1,004,774.92, of which $777,877 goes towards the January Sanborn Regional School District payment, and $30,487.50 goes towards the fire rescue station bond interest only.
all right. Do I have a second
I
on
think
that?
I seconded it a while ago. I'm still good with the second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matt, do you have it open? Can you
Yes.
go to the next one, please?
Announce that the board signed the,
Not announced.
No.
Move to,
but it says announce.
Oh, mine doesn't.
no, 1, 2, 3, you're on the
Sign new
fourth.
fire rescue
The
station
fourth
vendor.
one is
The
signed.
fourth one.
Yes.
Sign new fire rescue station vendor manifest dated January 7th, 2020, in the amount of $262.75.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Next one.
Sign payroll manifest for pay period December 22nd, 2019 to January 4th, 2020, with a pay date of January 9th, 2020.
Second.
Second by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Kate, you want to take on the last two?
I authorize the chairman to sign lease agreements with HP for new PCs for the town hall, fire chief, and police department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I so move to authorize the chairman to sign the IRS tax exempt form for lease agreements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that takes care of those. Announcements are done. Now we just need to sign. Approval of minutes is on the bottom here.
I don't see it.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I don't have it up.
I would move to approve the minutes both non-public and public dated December 19th, 2019.
Second.
Madam Chairman, I would move to amend that to include the changes as discussed in non-public.
The changes to the non-public.
Non-public minutes discussed in non-public.
Yeah, I heard those.
All right, do I have a second to that
Second.
amendment?
I wasn't at that meeting,
It
so
was tonight.
as long as whoever was at that meeting is good with it.
Actually, I should rephrase that. That was a friendly amendment. Do you accept the friendly amendment to your motion?
Friendly.
Say nay.
All right,
Then I will make it as a moved amendment.
As a what?
all right, well, you can't do that in the middle of a motion. So we do have a motion.
No, my amendment precedes the motion. I move that motion to include that language as was discussed in non-public regarding the non-public minutes.
Yeah, I'm not, my motion is still the same. So.
It's not a friendly amendment. I am making an amendment. That is the way you make an amendment. There is a motion on the table. I am making a motion to amend that motion.
But my motion is still hanging.
Your
We
motion
haven't voted
is
on
to
that
accept the minutes as written,
Right.
so take a vote on that one. And then he,
No,
No.
my amendment takes, the amendment to amend a motion takes precedent.
so vote on his
All right.
amendment first then.
Hold on, you know what? It's a little
Wow.
late right now. I can't think straight. We are going to table accepting or approving the non-public minutes for tonight. Is that all right with you, Matt?
Good choice.
All right.
Yeah.
So can I get you to rescind that motion
Sure.
for tonight?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, that motion has been rescinded. Can we just do the public?
Oh, yeah, so I'll move to approve the Selectmen's public meeting minutes for December 19th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, that is unanimous. And there are no non-public session minutes that need to be unsealed, otherwise somebody would have said something. So let's see, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, yes.
Second?
Turn it off.
So we have a motion